Hello, Pokémon trainers! This is Pedro. The matches at NAIC 2024 were out of this world. Let's take a look back at the competition in New Orleans. NAIC saw trainers from all around the globe battle for championship points, world invites, and the title of North America International Champion. Ashton Ash displayed a masterful performance with his always trustworthy core of Mantine and Shadow Alolan Sandslash.
Ashton Ash is gonna win this game in stunning fashion.
Out of Pocket played out of his mind and rocked the competition with his Shadow Quagsire's Stone Edge.
Stone Edge is going to be super effective against the bug-type Charge-a-Bug.
And LNDS Stainer soared to the sky with his unyielding Mandibus.
Another Sky Attack or Brave Bird taking out the Skarmory.
Going into Championship Sunday, we had a heated match between Ashton Ash and Out of Pocket in the Winners Finals. After Out of Pocket's heart-stopping win, Ashton Ash was up against the unstoppable Brazilian trainer LNDS Steinar, who defeated some of the toughest trainers in Day 2. In a dominant set of battles, Ashton Ash rose victorious and earned a rematch against Out of Pocket.
But we see the Volt Switch go through, both Pokemon go down, but Ashton Ash has a Pokemon in the back, claims victory 3-0 over Steinar.
The energy in the audience before the Grand Finals could only be described as the calm before the storm. After a set of 3 really close battles that kept the audience at the edge of their seats, Out of Pocket seized the title of North America International Champion with the help of his signature Feraligatr and Shadow Quagsire.
Here comes Out of Pocket. Both switches are firing. He's gonna get the KO. Out of Pocket, your NAIC 2024 champion.
Don't miss the epic conclusion of the season in Honolulu, Hawaii, where the best trainers in the world come together to decide once and for all who is the very best. Be sure to tune in and check out Pokemon.com/compete to jump straight into the action.
NAIC 2024 was one of a kind, the biggest international to date with over 3,100 competitors and the first and only competition in the Twilight Masquerade format. In the Junior Division Finals, Jose Cruz, piloting the new Raging Bolt Ogerpon, faced off against Edison Chen with his Goldengo EX deck. Early pressure and key Pokemon catchers led Jose to a quick Game 1 win. Edison responded by making it rain back-to-back to bring the pair to a Game 3, where Jose was able to chain big attacks to earn an even bigger IC win.
We are going to see a bellowing thunder here for 280 damage, and Jose Cruz is your North American International Champion in the Juniors Division.
In the Senior Divisions, Daniel Snorlax tried to lock down Game 1, but Nathan's key supporters helped break him free and leave Daniel with a lone Mimikyu who couldn't deal with Dragapult. For Game 2, Nathan put on the pressure with Dracloak and evolved it at the perfect time to take the win and the coveted IC title.
Here we go, Lost Vacuum on the Temple of Sinnoh, Neo Upper Energy on the Pit Shot, KO with Blustery win, and Nathan Osterkatz is your North American International Champion in the Seniors Division.
The Masters Finals lineup guaranteed it would be one for the history books. Stefan Ivanov, the two-time NAIC champion, found himself in the finals once again, playing Gardevoir EX. But in his way, playing Lost Box was Andrew Hedrick, a repeat regional champion. In Game 1, Stefan locked down the Lost Zone with his Klefki and Fluttermane. But Andrew was able to take back momentum with a dreaded Iron Hands EX. Stefan's only defense was to confuse it with Monkey Dory. But one risky roll later, Iron Hands attacked and Andrew won the game. Stefan's Fluttermane locked Andrew down again in Game 2, but this time it gave no quarter and led Stefan to a commanding win and Game 3. In Game 3, time was short and pressure was high. Stefan led with the lock once more, but Andrew found a boss's orders for the first important prize. In the final turn, Andrew with a single flower selecting, found his prime catcher and closed out the set, becoming the 2024 NAIC champion.
There it is! The prime catcher is found, and Greninja will knock out the Klefki and will allow Andrew to become the North America International Champion.
Legends were made here at NAIC, so make sure you continue to tune in at Pokemon.com/compete, and maybe you could be part of Pokemon history.
NAIC was home to not one, but two tournaments, the top 8 North American Regional Finals and the Final Stretch Open. Day 1 was the North American Regional Finals, and 3 teams forged their way to the top: Luminosity, Nemesis, and Orange Juicers. With all 3 of these teams being qualified for the World Championships, the tournament was a stage to prove who was the best of the best. The final matchup was between recent champs Orange Juicers and EUIC top 4 team Nemesis. Nemesis started hot by resetting the bracket from the loser's side.
Nemesis, cool as a cucumber.
But in the end, Nemesis could not take down Orange Juicers and their powerful Phalanx compositions.
Orange Juicers become your North American champions!
Day 2 was the final stretch, the last chance for teams to earn a spot at the World Championships. 3 teams from the open bracket faced the 5 unqualified teams from Day 1. Excitement was in the air from the beginning. The first game of the day ended with a nail-biter finish. DOL Kittens won the game by just 2 points.
There was an attempt to score from the other direction. I just want to be sure. What? 2 points for DOL Kittens!
The best of 5 set went the distance, but the final game was a test of countermeasures. Phalanx was a dominant Pokemon in both tournaments, and this finals was no exception. In all 4 games leading up to the last, Phalanx did not lose a single time. However, top path player for G, OG, locked in the Lucario for the final game, and it worked flawlessly. The final stretch came to an end with G taking the crown and a spot at the World Championships in Hawaii.
G, they are your final stretch champions! Free hot dog!
Think you have what it takes? Make sure to visit start.gg/Pokemon Unite so your team can be a part of the journey as well.
The North American International Championships had arrived in New Orleans, and so naturally, a parade of excited players followed, vying for that coveted trophy. Calyrex Shadow Rider had just won back-to-back regional level events in the 2 weeks prior, and its cool counterpart, Ice Rider, was never far behind. So the pressure was on every player to find a way to topple the Jockey King from its steeds. In the final of the Juniors division, Damon Zhao brought a hard-hitting Miraidon team into Kevin Hahn's bulky Calyrex Ice Rider. Despite the mega charge hits from Miraidon, Kevin's team was still able to use Trick Room and flip the matchup on its head, taking the win in a convincing 2-0.
And with this Glacial Lance, it continues the avalanche of success for Kevin Hahn this season. 6 titles in 2024 with the win in the Junior Division for the 2024 North America International Championships.
The senior finals was the battle of both riders. Adam Coulson with Calyrex Ice Rider piled on the pressure alongside Urshifu. However, Joshua Robinson utilized his Calyrex Shadow Rider to weather the blizzard, stall out Trick Room, and take a multitude of KOs with powerful Astral Barrages.
So the Calyrex, with this Astral Barrage, able to move before this Urshifu, is able to secure a double knockout, and that's the game, Josh! The honor, the glory, the redemption is his as he takes this game and becomes your Senior Division 2024 North America International Champion!
And in the Masters Division, we had French player Aurélien Soula, an incredibly strong player with countless top cuts in large events, and their opponent, Patrick Connors from Florida. With just a couple of Day 2 finishes to his name, he was certainly the underdog coming into this EU versus NA face-off. Patrick took game 1, but Aurélien took game 2. And in the final game, Patrick was able to position Pelipper to lock down Aurelian's Terrapagos with Wide Guard and sweep with Glacial Lance of the Calyrex Ice Rider.
The support of his local community, able to power through the paralysis, and with a critical hit, takes the win and is your 2024 North American International Champion!
So the North American region reigns supreme this weekend, with all champions riding their Calyrex to victory. Will you be our next champion? Settle on over to Pokemon.com/compete and show the world what you and your Pokemon can achieve.
Pokemon fans, trainers, and communities worldwide, welcome to the Pokemon World Championship.
Hello everyone and welcome in. I'm so excited to have you join us today. This is the World Championships preview show. We're going to help set the stage as best we can to get you prepared to enjoy this competition to its fullest. My name is Adam Watson and I am joined by, of course,
Rachel, aka Seltzer, and our job is to hype you up for what is to come next week at Worlds, but the preview for this show hyped me up, so I'm so excited seeing the level of play that is ahead of us, seeing how many great trainers have earned this path. And Adam, I'm so excited to talk to our guests today who are going to take us through the action in their individual games. But before we get into that, how's your year in Pokemon been?
It has been up and down with Pokemon TCG. It feels like the meta's shifting left and right. It's been a massive improvement, I think, has been the overall sentiment, which I'm glad to see. A few of my underdog favorite decks have risen to prominence. Dialga, of course, but have since fallen off, so I'll take that certainly to my grave. But it's not just about Pokemon TCG. We've got so many games to cover here, but what about your year with Pokemon?
I was gonna say, do you think Dialga has had its time? I'll be here all show, folks. I did get a chance after our last show, though. We were hyping up Lugia. I've gone on TCG Live. I've been playing the Lugia deck. It is phenomenal. If you're way down at the bottom ranks and you're placed up against someone who just ate a whole bottle of ketchup, that's me. I'll see you on there, but we're talking about much higher level of play here today, Adam.
And in order to understand all of those levels and complexity that is at play, we do have an expert panel of our casters from the scene that are going to be calling in and helping us break things down. We're going to kick it off with Pokemon Go, a fan favorite, and we've got Martine on the line to help us get into the world's mindset. How are you feeling, Martine?
Thank you, Adam and Rachel. I'm feeling great. I'm super excited to be here. And as you just said, those previews, they just made me so excited for what is to come, right? These past few days and the upcoming days are just breathing Pokemon. And yeah, there's just so much to come in Pokemon Go. This is going to be the 3rd World Championships for Pokemon Go, and it's been exponentially growing. The first time in London 2022, we had 64 competitors. Last season in Japan, Yokohama, we had 108 competitors, and this time we have over 200 competitors in Hawaii, Honolulu. And over the past seasons, players have been becoming better and better. So stakes are high. It's going to be super exciting.
I'm glad that the scene has continued to grow. The hype from all of the fans of Pokemon Go has translated directly into this game seeing so much success, and as you already noted, the caliber of play reaching that next level. And I know that you also picked out some individual trainers that we want to keep an eye on as we head into the World Championship, so I'll let you take it away there, Martine.
Let's start with the player from North America. He is inevitable, Doonbug. He has won 3 regional championships this season, and he got to the 2nd place at the Europe International Championships. The Europeans were like, no, there's no way an American is going to win this tournament. Well, he got really close. So there you see him do his eagle dance, just celebrating for the Americans here. And he is one of the names to look out for at the World Championships. Last season, It's Axon won the World Championships. It's a fellow American, and the Americans are looking very strong. Doonbug winning 3 regional championships, but also Lyle Jeffs winning 2 regional championships this season. Out of Pocket winning the North American International Championship. North America is looking very strong this season. I think Doonbug is going to be the one player from North America to look out for. And then if we take a look... Sorry?
Yeah, I was going to say, how do we feel about EU compared to NA's current dominance?
Yeah, EU has a couple very good players here as well. I have here Paulasha. Paulasha is a player who came from the grassroots tournaments. Her first competition was at the EUIC 2023, which didn't go super strong, but here you see her competing in Turin, which was her first time women's grand final, and she took it all there. She won here versus Andres, another very good player, also from Spain. Yeah, that was a very good tournament there. And then where she really stole the spotlight was at the European International Championship 2024, because that's where she used a Shadow Magnezone. And Shadow Magnezone was a pick that was not used very frequently. It actually really became globally well known from there. So yeah, Paulasha is a player to look out for. Another player to look out for, Colin 6, has won 2 regional championships this season as well. There you see me, there's a slightly inception. I also casted that tournament. And here we see Paulasha with that Magnezone taking out Poliwrath in one attack. It was an amazing moment, a one-hit knockout. It was not an amazing moment for Onion Frank, but that's competition that we have here. Magnezone has become so popular that the following tournament in LATAM actually won the tournament with Magnezone, Lindos Canon. So really made a huge impact. And what I love about Paulasha as well is that she used this fame to become a content creator with it as well and become a role model for players all over the globe. So that is the player that I have noted here for Europe, an absolute role model, and definitely one of the players to look out for in Europe. Now, if we move over
exciting to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. If we move over to LATAM, this player is incredible. He started the season incredible because, the Latin American International Championship also was at the start of the season. The tournament before that, Lindos Rajev won a tournament. He swept everything and everyone. And I'm not talking about best of threes. He didn't drop a single battle going into the Latin American International Championships.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, dominant.
It is. is very dominant. Last season, LATAM didn't do very well at the World Championships. They got one player in the top 32, I believe. And I think Lindos Rajev is the player, the showcase, to show that LATAM wants to come back and take it all this season. And I think they have a very good chance at this as well, with him winning the Latin America International Championship and also getting at the top 8 in the North America International Championship. LATAM is one of the most passionate regions in the world. And
I definitely agree there.
Yeah.
It was an incredible
showcase. Crowds. Got to be great playing at that event.
I agree. Yeah, you just see him cheering here with the crowd and with his friends. It's amazing to see. He went to North America with his friend, as you see here on the left, Lindos trainer Steinar, and they both got to top 8. They flew together from Brazil to North America and both got to top 8. It's an amazing showcase of LATAM, and Lindos Rajev is one of the players to really look out for at the World Championships.
Not just gameplay from these players, but the celebration, the energy they bring to the stage. I love watching Go for so many reasons, that being a big one.
Yeah, it's great that we have these broadcasts in Latin America to see like the crowds, right? You see them there just being so passionate and they're so loud. I love that so much about that.
Yeah, they always bring the hype, and we can bring things around, I think, as well to the OC region. I know you have a key pick from there as well.
Yeah, we see here the name Valiant Fish, but the key pick that I have is his opponent, Jakobovic. He's the first player to have won 2 regional championships in one season. In fact, he has only played 2 championships this season, and he won them both. So that's like a really impressive showcase of his gameplay. The player that we saw earlier, Valiant Fish, is also one of the bigger Australian players who will also be competing again at the World Championships. He got to top 16 last season as well. And then we also have a player that I like to name, Rocket Claire, has got to top 8 twice this season as well in Oceania, and she is an amazing player. I believe that will be her first time at the World Championships, so that'll be really cool to see.
I cheer for Rockets. Yeah. Good luck to them.
Yeah. The final player and final region that we take a look at is APAC, and there we have Crescent Angels. He's the only Japanese player who has competed, or he will still compete, in all 3 World Championships. He made a big name for himself at the 2022 World Championships. It's not in this showcase here, but he made an insane play in the winners final of the World Championships. Like out of every moment in the World Championships, to do that there is crazy. So Crescent Angels, one of those players to look out for, one of the best players of Japan, and other players from the region APAC that I like to name are Beelzeboy. We don't see a lot of gameplay from those players. He's from India, will be competing in Hawaii as well, a player who makes very few mistakes. And another player that I'd like to name is someone who doesn't live up to his name. His in-game name is Sir Panic a lot, and he has won he has won the Indonesia qualifiers twice. So either Panic is a superpower, or he just doesn't do that at all. So yeah, those are the players that I have to look out for. But there's obviously going to be... I honestly could put 60 more names on this list. Everyone going there is just so talented.
Yeah, every name that you list, I'm certain that they would have their own dedicated fans in the chat right now. So let us know which Pokemon Go players you're looking forward to seeing as well, certainly.
And not just the players to look out for, but some incredible plays as well. You put together some of the best plays from the year for us to check out, and I'm sure a lot more to come at Worlds. But what have you got for us, Martijn?
The first one that we have is from the Europe International Championship. PvP David versus Statstan, 2 friends. And what you see here is Statstan throwing a bait attack. This is an attack that costs less energy, takes less time to get there. And the purpose of a bait is to get a shield and expend less energy. But PvP David calls the bait. You see Statstan just laughing through the pain here. He's not liking that. And guess what? He's going to do that again. He's going to throw the flying attack here, resist it into the lantern, hoping to get a shield. While the other attack, the ground type charge attack, would knock out. And you see him no shield again! He no shields again! It's a crazy call.
Oh my goodness. Was he just in his head? Was this a regional meta difference? What was going on there, do you think?
Well, looking at the backlines here, I think that PvP David saw the Gligar here, which was one of the very few answers to the Annihilate. And PvP David was like, well, I'm just going to keep my shields for Annihilate. I don't need to shield anything here. And so he did, because he still had the Skarmory. Skarmory is a hard answer to Gligar. So he just was like, oh, I'm just going to play my own game. And StatStan's game plan didn't exactly line up with that.
Wow. Yeah, letting them take the hits there, and then they're not that bad of a hit. So why wouldn't you do it again? So much to learn from these players, especially zooming in on these very particular moments that you brought for us.
If it doesn't work once, you just try it again, right? That's
absolutely
what happens here.
The definition of sanity.
The second gameplay that we have here was a crazy one from the Los Angeles Regional Championship. Lunatone on the right is a Pokemon you never see currently in Pokemon Go. And I think Battle Bill didn't really exactly know the pacing of it. So here comes a Moonblast, which is super effective. And Battle Bill actually doesn't put up a Protect Shield, and boom! Sablei's gone! It actually is taken out in one attack there.
Amazing. To take that Silver Bullet, that complete off-meta pick, and find its success for such a devastating moment. Great clip here.
Yeah, and the lack of fear against the Lunatone. Like, I won't shield that. What can it bring to the battle? Well, a whole lot, apparently.
Yeah, it's the cruise ship, his signature Pokemon, Lunatone. And when everyone thought, there's no way he brings that to our regional championship, well, he showed up with one and didn't put up a show. I don't know if Battle Bill was like, you know, we need some content here, or he lost track of the energy, but it was phenomenal to see, I'll say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can take one Moonblast, famous last words, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a Sableye on the screen and then it was gone. Then the next showcase that we have here is Zweilous. This is a very technical play, because Zweilous does 11 Dragon Breaths here. And then he proceeds to swap into Skeledirge and catch an attack here. Now, Magnezone has two different attacks, a bait attack and Wild Charge. He catches the resisted Mirror Shot here, and that doesn't do a lot of damage to the Skeledirge, right? So the technical play that Zweilous made there, we're going to see it again in a second. Zweilous' display was incredible that he made. The 11 Dragon Breaths that he did translates to 11 turns. One turn in Pokemon Go is half a second. So swapping on that exact last second allowed him to sneak another attack through. Here we go again. Zweilous versus Bopper. You see here the Dragonite versus the Magnezone. He's going to do 11 Dragon Breaths and then swap in the Skeledirge. Incinerate will go through, and that is a 5-turn attack, which means that Zweilous basically gains 2.5 seconds here, plus Bopper cannot even stay in this matchup because another Incinerate would knock out the Magnezone. That is what makes this play so phenomenal and allows Zweilous to win this matchup, as you can see here, by just one attack. And that's where the celebration comes from. There's some, how do I say it, relief when your play, when a plan comes together. I love it when a plan comes together. It was incredible to see.
Oh, and the physical control and the precision, too. I think that's one of the things that gets lost when we're watching all these gameplay, but they're executing this on their screens. It's so impressive what the players can bring to bear in these tournament events.
The mind games, the timing, the meta knowledge all comes to a head in the finals. And when we come around to the Pokemon World Championships, I know that our viewers at home have a lot of questions as well about this high-level Pokemon Go play. And we have a couple questions coming from social media. And the first one I'll throw at you. Is Lantern still good? The people want to know, Martine.
Yeah, I think Lantern is still a very good Pokemon. It has won the previous World Championship and it recently got a nerf to its Electric type Fast Attack, meaning that the Electric type damage output is now less. And that means that it now resorts to more Water type damage output. And it allows other Water type to have a little bit more play, like Azumarill, Feraligatr are now a little bit more usable in the current meta. However, the counter to Lantern, Whiscash, also has been nerfed. And that means that Lantern, with more water damage output, it has the fast attack Water Gun now, it has less weak spots. Basically, there's only really Dragon-type Pokemon, and there aren't really Grass-type Pokemon in the current meta, but there is a Pseudo-Grass-type Pokemon, which is Cresselia. It has the attack Grass Knot, which Lantern does not like, it's super effective. So for that reason, if there's neither of those Pokemon on the team, Lantern is kind of unchecked. And that is why I think Lantern is still very good.
You know, and That does set us up for our next question, also from Soft Tough. Is Shadow Cresselia going to be good? I think they're mining for some information here, perhaps planning to compete. Let's see what you have to say about Shadow Cresselia.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I did a big deep dive into how Shadow Cresselia works as opposed to the regular Cresselia. Let me explain real quick that there's currently an event going on in Pokemon Go which released Shadow Cresselia. It's now for the first time in the game, just right before the World Championships as well. So that's why this question. And Shadow Cresselia is known, regular Cresselia is known for its bulk. But a Shadow Pokemon gives up some attack, some defense, and gains more attack. So you kind of give up your main trait there to have that bulk and just take a lot of attacks as Cresselia, while Shadow Cresselia can do it less. The thing is, though, because Shadow Cresselia is or has high coverage, has very good coverage in Grass Knot and Moonblast, so you cover in a Grass typing and a Fairy typing, you can take out some Pokemon such as Quagsire in one attack. Azumarill from full health doesn't go down into Grass Knot. Now it does. However, because you have less bulk, some important matchups that it will drop are Altaria, for example. And I believe Feraligatr also becomes a little bit iffy simply because Feraligatr also can deal super effective damage back with Shadow Claw, and you have less bulk to take that now. I personally think that Shadow Cresselia is worth getting. It can be good, it can be niche, but I think that non-Shadow Cresselia might be just a little bit better because it takes the charge stacks just so well.
Well, you mentioned that we've just got our hands on Shadow Cresselia. We've had some changes with Whiscash and, of course, with Lantern. So all of this has had a big effect on the meta going into this event. Can you give us a little bit more of a top-down of what that might look like for next week?
Absolutely. So this is what I think could be a top meta team, but also these 6 Pokemon could be in the top 6 usage at the World Championships. So the top Pokemon could all be basically combined together. The 2 Pokemon that likely will be the most common here are Charjabug and Lickitung. Both Pokemon have such unique coverage. Charjabug with its bug and electric typing, and Lickitung is just a normal type, so only has 1 weakness, but deals back ghost type damage and has coverage in Power Whip with grass typing. Another thing that I want to explain here, by the way, why our meta sometimes looks a little bit goofy compared to like VGC is we play the championship series in the Great League. And the Great League, you can compare this kind of, if you compare it to like the VGC, it's like a level 30 league, but defense and HP is valued more. And that's why a Pokemon like Charjabug is better here than is Evolution. And so is Lickitung. It's better than Licky in the Great League. And that's why we have a lot of unevolved forms, right? We have also Gligar.
That is fascinating.
Annihilate. Yeah, I think that makes it so unique, right? We look at VGC and you see like a Landorus or something, and then we're like, well, we have Charjabug.
That's what makes Go amazing. The middle evolutions get play sometime.
I think it's rather cool. The other picks to go through real quick, Annihilate is one of the main fighters, the other one being Vigoroth, but I think Annihilate is a little bit of a better closer because of a very strong moveset in counter, one of the best fighting type attacks, and Shadow Ball, one of the best ghost type attacks. Skarmory has 10 resistances defensively, has good bulk, a good moveset, is a very good Pokemon to use in general. Azumarill is like also inevitable. It has been around since the start of PvP. It's just so good, has good bulk, versatile moveset. And Gligar is a Pokemon that's like very difficult to check. Its attacks are hardly resisted by everything. The only thing that really counters Gligar besides Ice-type Pokemon is that Skarmory that you see here. On this team, everything checks each other a little bit, but also has unique coverage.
And with Azumarill being around for so long, has that received any significant buffs or nerfs, or just does it keep coming back? It's just such a solid Pokemon overall.
It has a very unique typing in Water and Fairy, and that just allows it to do what a water type needs to do, right? But also keeps dragon types in check. I didn't put one here, but Goodra has received a new charge attack during the North American International Championship, which gives it more coverage into a Pokemon like Azumarill or Skarmory. And Azumarill is very good to keep those dragons in check. If you don't have a dragon type counter, if you don't have a counter to dragon types, it might just run through your team. So that's why a Pokemon like Azumarill is just kind of necessary.
And we talked a little bit about Magnezone coming into relevance and being taken up across, but not quite here in the meta picks. So what would it need to kind of get itself into this top 6 choice, or has its moment already been eclipsed?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Magnezone, because I actually have it here for the Spice picks as well. 3 Spice picks I consider very useful for the World Championships. Goodra already mentioned, might be the top dragon type to use right now next to Altaria. Magnezone is a very fragile Pokemon, but has 12 typing resistances, and also has the attack Wild Charge, which hits everything hard. In Pokemon Go, we have no immunity in attacks, so a Wild Charge can actually hit a ground type. If this is single resisted to, for example, a Quagsire, it will still do about half its HP, just to put in perspective how strong Wild Charge can be from Magnezone. It's such an excitement to look at, right? Pokemon that can just run through teams, and yeah, I love to see that. The last one is a personal favorite, Wigglytuff. It's unique coverage and its looks. I love the way it looks and just attacks. But it shuts down many cores. It's very good into a Pokemon like Lickitung, like Annihilate, Dragon type Pokemon, and that's usually that's sometimes half of the team. You can shut down half a team with Wigglytuff. That's why I think it can have a really strong impact. There's also, of course, going to be Skarmory all over the place, so Wigglytuff is not safe, but maybe that's what Magnezone can do.
Very interesting. Very spicy, Martine. Very spicy indeed. And I do love the Wigglytuff in there at the end. Now, a personal favorite of yours competing? Someone you like to run with?
Ooh, I am a Wigglytuff fan, so that is what I like to use. Magnezone's also on my list, but my personal favorite would be Giratina. It is one of my favorite legendary Pokemon. It has very unique coverage. The problem is Lickitung being the most common Pokemon, and Ghost is double resisted by normal. So if you have your Giratina on Lickitung, it's kind of game over. We call that rock, paper, scissors concept in Pokemon Go. And that's kind of something you often want to avoid, right? You want to develop a strategy, try to play it a little bit safe. But my playstyle is usually the rock, paper, scissors method. So I love to bring Giratina, bring in your Lickitung. That's honestly the mind games that come with it sometimes, right? I like that about team building in Pokemon Go, where you can put bench pressure Pokemon as well. Pokemon you might not even consider using, but because they shut down like 3 or 4 Pokemon from the other team, it's kind of risky for others to run the strategies they are usually comfortable with. And for that reason, I'm like, well, bring in your Lickitung, and then I have like a Wigglytuff to counter it. So in that regard, everything can just work in Pokemon Go.
Well, I do love the variety that players are constantly bringing to competition, and I appreciate so much you taking us through the meta picks and these spicy picks as well. Now, we also have something special if you're going to be watching the Pokemon Go competition this upcoming week. What do we got as far as Twitch drops?
Yeah, we have different Twitch drops every day. So day 1, we have rewards that you can get based on the last year's champion, it's Axon. He used a purified Sableye in his team to win the World Championships, and you can get that with the day 1 Twitch drop. You can also get an Elite TM, which are pretty rare, and you can use those to get unique attacks on your Pokemon that you usually cannot get. On day 2, these Pokemon are very interesting. At first glance, you might be like, are these useful? They are going to be useful for the next season. So these might actually be Pokemon that you want to look out for and get a good one off. You will receive those during the day 2 Twitch drops, and then we have on day 3, you will get a Pikachu with what was it? The scuba glasses. You get the scuba glasses Pikachu from the Day 3 Twitch drop. So that will be,
Nice.
I believe, the first time in Pokemon Go during the World Championships. And it can be shiny. So very unique.
I'm glad that they are taking the time to make sure that our viewers and our competitors are already prepped for the next season of competition. But we want to try to keep the focus on this Worlds in Honolulu, Seltzer.
We do. And you have brought us spice and you have brought us heat. And now, Martine, it is time to ask you for your hot take for Pokemon Go in this upcoming event.
Oh, you're not ready for this one. It's very hot, warm, spicy.
There's no seatbelts on this couch. Be careful.
We've talked about water Pokemon. We've talked about normal type Pokemon. But no one's talking about fire type Pokemon. I think a fire type Pokemon is going to steal the show during the World Championships. They have very unique coverage, and they also, some of the meta fire type Pokemon such as Skeledirge, Talonflame, and some even run Typhlosion. They have the best fast attack in the game, Incinerate. And it can actually do so much damage on about anything. Even sometimes when resisted, it will deal more damage than a neutral attack. So that is my hot take. I think a fire type Pokemon might take it all in Hawaii just because people don't see it coming. Well, unless now that I talked about it, but that's up to competitors.
Martin, coming literally with the hot take there, the fire types. Now, you shouted out some great Pokemon that might make this come true if we do see this. Any particular supports that we'd want to add onto a team if we're really trying to, build around a fire?
Cresselia generally pairs very well into it. It's like I said, we don't really have grass type Pokemon in the current meta, but Cresselia serves as a Pokemon to counter water type and dragon type Pokemon, which happen to counter or to defend Typhlosion, right? Typhlosion is weak to those typing. So yeah, Cresselia might be a main Pokemon you want to bring with your Talonflame, with your Typhlosion, with your Skeledirge. Players like to opt for Feraligatr as well, going for the double alligator or double crocodile strategy with the Skeledirge and Feraligatr. Those are very, very attack-weighted options to bring for the World Championships as well. Some players like to take the charge stacks, think about the strategies, and other players have a little bit more of an aggressive play style and just fire off hard-hitting charge attacks. So that is a little bit of a composition that you might expect with a fire-type Pokemon. I would think Feraligatr and Cresselia would pair really well with those.
Well, thank you so much. Martine, you have been a well of resources and information, and I appreciate so much you coming on to share that with us. We are not letting you go forever. You're coming back at the end of the show when we do our large group Q&A with all the casters, so sit tight. We'll hear from you in just a little bit, but anything you want to say on your way out this time?
Yeah, I just want to say, make sure that you watch the World Championships for those Twitch drops. Not only the World Championships will be exciting, but everything that will be on there, such as the upcoming season, right? That's something that everyone really wants to see. And yeah, I'm definitely want to know from everyone who you think is going to win the World Championships, because I think anyone can take it.
Oh, well, they should tweet that at you personally, right?
Go for it. Yeah, I'm up for it.
Excellent. Well, thank you once again. We'll hear from you in just a little bit. But up next, it's time to bring in our next caster. We've got Joe Bernard covering the TCG.
Wow, Joe Bernard joining us from across the pond to set the stage for Pokemon TCG. It seems that whenever we get a big tournament, we've got a big meta shakeup to go along with it. But what are your thoughts, Joe, about the overall season so far?
Well, it's been another incredible season for the Pokemon trading card game. I remember sitting in the venue, hearing the announcement of Hawaii, and the place literally erupted. And I think throughout that entire season, we've seen over and over again record-breaking attendance numbers in the Pokemon trading card game. These tournaments are getting absolutely monstrous, and the level of play is also just completely rising this year. So I think it's been an incredible season. No more so than at the NAIC, where we saw a really surprising showing for Gardevoir, actually making 6 of the top 8 placements. We did respect the archetype, we all knew it was good, but we didn't quite think that so many high-level players would take it that far into the tournament. And as you say, Adam, there is a whole new expansion coming out for our players for the World Championships. The Shrouded Fable set, only 64 cards, but there are some really, really powerful ones in there as well. So there's going to be a little bit of metagaming going on, looking at the NAIC data and how decks have been performing, but also they have to contend with all these brand new inclusions and seeing how those cards stack up in the new format.
The new cards from Shrouded Fable are going to really shake up what our players are thinking about bringing, what they're testing, and we're going to dig into that a little bit later on, Joe. But for now, I would love to hear you break down your top picks for players to watch from all over the world that are going to be joining us in Honolulu.
Absolutely. I think the perfect place to start will be our NAIC champion this season, Andrew Hedrick. I think we've known that he's been a great player for a number of seasons. He'd already won 2 regionals before this one, but I think he really stepped up the play just another level this year, where he's gone from this very good regional winner to a true great of our game right now, because I know you're a massive fan. He did get a win in the regionals with Dialga V-Star, close to your heart, no doubt. And he innovated that archetype. He made it his own, completely changed the engine, and changed the fortunes of that deck to actually create that regional win, which is absolutely exceptional. But also, of course, how could we forget the NAIC run that he had, playing the Lost Zone box variant, and again, innovating the deck list. I think that's what really sets Andrew apart. Right now, we're seeing a lot of players who are trying to make those cuts, those tweaks for tech inclusions, whereas Andrew, he has a completely different philosophy around deck building. He's all about maximizing 4-off counts in his deck list, making sure his core strategy is always online in the game. And I think his Lost Zone build really epitomizes that by having a very aggressive Pokestop engine, rather than having the Artisan Stadium, which was commonly within the deck, going all gas instead, and really popping off with those Mirage Gate turns. And I think that really set Andrew apart. For me, I was there sort of jaw-dropping in the finals. I mean, we had to have a coin flip in game 1 to decide the victor, but for Andrew to even get into that position was absolutely astounding, because it looked like his back was completely against the wall against another top player in Stefan Ivanov, of course. So yeah, Andrew is definitely one to watch for me for the NI region, but also looking towards my home turf, the EU region. I'm going to be highlighting Juho Kalama next. He's also been one of these players that's been very, very strong for a number of seasons, but I think he really found his footing and his rhythm with one card that was released in particular this format, and that was Iron Hands EX. It's a polarizing card. I know a lot of people love it, a lot of people hate that card, but Juho has taken that and got a huge amount of championship points under his belt with Iron Hands in any which way possible. He's our LAIC champion this season. He was piloting that Iron Hands when it was a brand new card in a Miraidon style archetype. He played quite a number of different lightning type toolbox attackers in that instance, and played Miraidon for a few more months. But then he jumped on to different variants for the EUIC, where he got a top 8, the sort of future style box, where he included a different Miraidon, a future style one, as well as an Iron Crown. So he's basically made a way for Iron Hands to be very good in any situation. And I have an inkling that he's probably going to be bringing Iron Hands to Worlds as well. And that's no bad thing at all. And of course, if we're mentioning EU, we probably have to mention Tord Reklev as well. He's had a bit of an understated season. He only won 1 IC, which is really a testament to how strong of a player he actually is. And we know how close he came last year at the World Championships, losing out to Vance Kelly in those final turns of time with Gardevoir EX. So I know that he's hungry to get that Worlds win. It's the last thing on his resume that he's missing. He wants to solidify himself as the best of all time, not just the best in the current era. So I also have to give a shout out to Tord. You know he's going to be bringing his A game to this tournament. Let's shift gears over to the LATAM region then, where we have William Azevedo. You can see he's actually up against Tord here in these clips, where this was the EUIC, this was in top 4, where they were both piloting Charizard EX. And William has actually kind of created the blueprint for Charizard this season, where he was the first regional winner with Charizard over in Curitiba early on in the season, where before this, Charizard hadn't even made top 8. William not only brought a new list and really created that blueprint with Arven and Forest Seal Stone and Rotom in the deck list, but he also then continued to pilot it the entire season to ridiculous results. Very, very consistent performer. Again, has been around for many years, and Charizard was his baby, and he's continued on. He even got that top 4 you can see here at the EUIC, and losing to Tord Reklev is no bad thing, to be honest with you, in a mirror match, and that was also a very, very close game. So William is a player that I certainly have on my radar. Charizard will be talking more about it when we discuss the meta a little bit more. It seems to have a lot of cards, a whole trove of cards from Shrouded Fable that could be included. So I'm certain that William will be able to identify which the best ones are far to make Charizard a top performer going into the World Championships. Let's have a look at the Oceania region next, where I've highlighted Natalie Miller as a very, very strong player and pilot of Gardevoir EX. That's kind of been her deck in the back end of this season. She's, of course, a player of great pedigree. She is capable of making very bold meta calls. She got a Players' Cup win with Luke Metal that also had a Bronzong tech in there just to beat some fire archetypes. She's played risky at Worlds in the past before as well with Buzzwole, Garbodor, and Shrine, like a single prize archetype. So she and her testing group around the Oceania region, very, very strong, capable players. They collectively had by far the best performing Gardevoir archetype, and Natalie, of course, made it into the top 8 with her deck list. And I honestly feel like you could play the exact same list that Natalie piloted to the NAIC and have a very good showing at the World Championships, just because how it was constructed. It has answers with a number of single copies of Pokemon, and the tool suite that it has is absolutely phenomenal. So she's part of a fantastic testing group. You know that they'll be putting a lot of hours in, and she is such a great in-game player. Even though she lost in that top 8 at the NAIC, she was in a very awful position and brought it to being one turn away from winning, again from just a completely out of this world situation where she was able to claw back prize cards without submitting anymore. So that was absolutely exceptional. Then also discussing the Oceania region, Brent Tonneson, he's literally been on a world tour all season. He did win in his home turf, but he's been over in Europe playing tournaments to great effect. He's been going over to NA as well, and he's just had a ridiculous amount of placements. Brent Tonneson was the highest championship point earner for us this season, and he's epitomized, going around the world playing the game non-stop. And it's incredible that even hailing from Oceania, he's been able to sustain himself just from placements this year alone, which is just a phenomenal thing to see and a great thing that I hope can continue for more players to come into the future. And I think Brent and Natalie will be testing together and at least discussing decks together, and that's two great minds in one room, and I think they'll be able to come up with a fantastic list together. Let's finally touch on the Asia Pacific region then, where we have Hikaru Kobayama, who of course won the Japan Championships. You can see them there. And this tournament is an over 2,000 player tournament, a monster tournament in Japan. And it really did feel like this was a breakout performance. Rachel, I know you mentioned that Lugia is your favorite, and well, here we are. Hikaru got the dub with Lugia V-Star in this occasion. But isn't just like this one-trick pony. They did play Snorlax in day one of the tournament and then was able to make that change and play a different deck, because it's a slightly different structure that we have in a lot of our Western events. So it really seems like Hikaru has his finger on the pulse in terms of metagame calls and is going to be jumping on which deck he feels is right at the right moment, which I think is something that we have a big testament here. We've seen a lot of the names I've mentioned, they've stuck to their guns and stuck with an archetype for large portions of the season, whereas you can also get great results and go deep in tournaments by really getting deep into your metagaming and having the right call for the tournament. And that feels like what Hikaru did in this instance, which is fantastic. And I think that's even more important actually, because of course over in Japan, they've already been able to play in the Shrouded Fable formats. They've had some of these cards and had access to them for some local events, not larger events, of course, but it might mean that the Asia Pacific players might have a better grasp on this metagame, and it might allow Hikaru to make another great call for this tournament.
I'm really, really looking forward to that. I love some anti-meta picks. You know me, especially going back to the Dialga, not to harp on it too much, but I think there is an audio clip of me watching Andrew Hedrick play that deck, and he took a line that I didn't see, or I wasn't going to take if I were in that position, and I said, I'm so mad, but I have to respect it. And I think that really shows the gap when the high-level player is just teaching you just by watching them play. And that is what I'm certainly looking forward to at the World Championships, is tune in, enjoy the games, but also learn. And that is what our audience at home is trying to do right now, because they sent us a couple questions from social media. So let me lay this one on you first, Joe. What are the chances that Mew VMAX wins back-to-back World Championships? This is from Maddox TCG. Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
Maddox, you gotta let it go. I know this is a deck that was close to your heart, but no, we can't play Mew VMAX for the World Championships. I think we had the perfect send-off for the deck, honestly. It took rotation to beat Mew VMAX because we kept seeing new counters come out time and time again, and it wasn't enough. So I think Mew had the perfect send-off, and I'm happy that we can move on with other decks into this Worlds.
Well, speaking of moving on, Simply Average Gamer has a question about the new expansion. What decks might be strengthened most by Shrouded Fable?
I think that has to go to Regidrago V-Star. Now, it did get a nice top 16 finish by Jacob I at the NAIC, and not many people expected that. The meta was a little bit tricky for Regidrago. There was the expectation of lots of Lugia V-Star and Raging Bolts. Those decks could still show up at Worlds, but they were very popular heading into the NAIC, which made Regidrago more of a risky pick. But now, I think Regidrago, with some new inclusions from Shrouded Fable, just gains so many new cards. I think, of course, there are some new Dragon Pokemon. The Kiram stands out, adding a fantastic Trifrost attack that can spread onto different Pokemon, really making Regidrago capable at dealing with so many evolving decks just incredibly well, and even have catch-up strategies with multi-prize turns if you're able to chain this attack possibly, or prep some damage on certain Pokemon, then do a board wipe all in one go. So the fact that Regidrago V-Star copies dragons, whenever you see new dragons come out, that's always something that you have to think about, and it seems like it's pole vaulting Regidrago up into those high places. But also there's the Pheasantipity EX, which is just a powerful card that I'm trying to shove into every deck in the format right now, to be honest with you. But it works really nicely in an aggressive combo style deck like Regidrago, because you're constantly fishing for more pieces. You need to reload your attackers, you're looking for those energy switches, you're looking for more uses of your Teal Mask Ogerpon EX to just cycle through your deck. And Pheasantipity EX has a great way to do that. Its ability is called Flip the Script. It's a phenomenal name for an ability, by the way. And we're going to get to say this a lot as casters, which I'm very happy about. But when you suffer a KO, you get to draw 3 cards. And even though this is a vulnerable 2-prize Pokemon, it doesn't seem that big of a deal in Regidrago when you're already playing lots of vulnerable 2-prize Pokemon anyway. So just drawing 3 cards deeper into the deck to close out a game and finish a combo seems like a really, really important card. So I feel like Regidrago's gone from this, wow, niche, surprising pick that did well at the NAIC to probably being expected to be in the top 3 of popularity with these new buffs from the set. So it really has changed its fortunes quite substantially.
And this leads us perfectly into, I think, the broader meta discussion that you've been hinting at this whole time. Shrouded Fable is going to have a big impact, and Regidrago's not the only deck that's getting a nice boon. We have some other picks here with a little bit of a focus dive, and feel free to spread out into whatever other decks you think are really going to get a boost from Shrouded Fable.
Absolutely. You can see the 3 cards here. Kiram probably the most niche of them, where I think it definitely goes into Regidrago V-Star, and then could be that headache for Lost Zone Box. So even though it won the previous tournament, there's a new counter card coming out in this set where Kiram can attack for just 1 colorless energy if there's a Colress in the discard pile. So you're definitely punishing a very high-tier archetype and might be shifting the meta around it. But the Pheasantipity EX and the Dustoir, these are very versatile cards. They can go into all sorts of archetypes. There's been a big buzz around Dustoir going into Charizard EX decks because the Dusclops and Dustoir, they KO themselves. They force the opponent to take prize cards. You'd normally think that's a bad thing, but you also get to place counters on your opponent's Pokemon as you go. And Charizard loves playing from behind because the Burning Darkness attack deals more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. So forcing them to take those prize cards can actually lead Charizard into some surprising or earlier KOs, which is huge for the deck because we know it naturally gets so much stronger in the late game just by virtue of its own damage outputs. And we know there's a lot of great combat cards in the format as well. Counter Catcher being probably the strongest item card, and then the likes of Iono and Roxanne, where you're going to try and hand disrupt the opponent, maybe take out some engine Pokemon at the same time as taking a KO. It definitely makes a lot of sense in Charizard, but it is adding another stage 2 to a deck that already plays 2 stage 2s. So it's going to be a difficult juggle for Charizard. What I'm also really interested in, actually, is how Dustoir fits into other archetypes, because you may not see some immediate synergy here, but it can actually be very good in some of the more aggressive decks, something like a Raging Bolt or a Miraidon, a deck that normally plays lots of 2-prize Pokemon, doesn't have to worry about giving your opponent a prize card, and possibly using these damage counters to take a single prize KO. You know, Dustoir can put 13 counters onto one of your opponent's Pokemon, so that's easily enough to deal with some evolving or some engine-style Pokemon, and you're not worried that you're giving up a prize card, but in doing so, you're getting 1 turn closer to the win. And these decks like Miraidon and Raging Bolt, they're trying to really race as quickly as possible. We've seen cards like Pokemon Catcher, flipping coins to try and bring up multi-prize Pokemon from the Raging Bolt side of things, and sometimes Miraidon as well. But now you can be more content taking a single prize, knowing that you can use a Dusknoir later down the line to take another single prize by using an ability rather than an attack. So you can actually win in like 3 attacks quite effectively with some of these aggressive 2-prize archetypes. The issue is trying to shoehorn in the Dusknoir, I suppose. Once again, it's a lot of spaces, and you may not naturally have a lot of ball search cards, but the potential is massive with Dusknoir, and it also creates very strange board positions for a number of decks. Things like Chien-Pao may be falling out of favor in the World Championships because it's so much easier with Dusknoir now in formats to take out a Frigibax with one of these ability ghost types and then taking out their Baxcalibur on the same turn with your attack for the turn. So it really creates some difficult board puzzles for the opponent. And I think the very best players in the world will make the most out of these styles of abilities because they can capitalize on board states and be very intricate with their prize races. So even though it's had some mixed results so far in our early data for the online spaces, I feel like Dusknoir is still going to be absolutely massive. But I think far and away, Pheasantipity EX has been my favorite card in the set. I think it's by far the strongest, to be honest with you, because this can go into everything. I'm putting it into my aggressive archetypes so that I have enough fuel to see my final boss's orders or reload my final attacking Pokemon, but I'm also putting it in some of the more defensive decks like Charizard, like Dragapult Pidgeot as well, that can easily give up 1 prize early on, and then you have the fallback of not only Pidgeot EX oftentimes, but also Pheasantipity EX as well, and you can string all sorts of combos together, and just having more of a safeguard around Iono and Roxanne, which has been such a huge factor throughout the entire season, really does change the way the game is played as well, because it's not as reliable as a choice now to sit behind and know that you can catch up in 3 and 4 prizes, because now Pheasantipity EX could be on the board for the opponent and they can find their 1 or 2 final cards to win the game. So I do think this will have a profound impact at Worlds, and I'm expecting it in so many decks, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the implications that you've laid down here, Joe, really show that familiar matchups are going to be played completely differently. Players have to readjust their scale of how safe their plays are or how long games will truly be. And so heading into Honolulu, we're only scratching the surface. This was a really great breakdown. And I think this kind of brings us around full circle to your personal picks, because that ties into a special fantasy pick, a fantasy draft that we have going here for our Worlds competition. If you are from the US and Canada, you can submit your picks for the top 6 Pokemon you think are going to see success, make top 8 Worlds, and earn yourself some awesome prizes. Joe Bernard has been kind enough to provide us with his 6 picks. And if you just want to go card by card and make a case for why you think each of these cards is going to make it into top 8 of the World Championships, please take your time.
Yeah, I think I've really hedged my bets with this one. I may not win the whole thing with these sort of fantasy picks, but I'm definitely playing it safe because I'm picking cards that show up in multiple high-level archetypes. I just mentioned Pheasantipity EX. That'll be the first one I touch on due to its versatility. I could expect this in so many archetypes. Basically every top deck that isn't Gardevoir, I think you can justify putting a Pheasantipity EX into that deck list just because of what it can provide, to be honest with you. So I'm expecting like 6 or 7 of these in our top cut, to be quite honest with you. Like even some controlling archetypes can look to have this as a fallback, and we have seen that already. I think Teal Mask Ogerpon EX is also proving itself to be just one of the strongest cards in the game.
My
that
girl.
Teal Dance ability, allowing itself to self-attach and draw cards as you go, replace the card that you just played down, allows you to tick along so nicely. And we're using that energy acceleration now with Regidrago V-Star more and more often with energy switches, but also just having multiple of these on the bench for Raging Bolt for, of course, high damage output plays where you're looking to discard lots of basic energy on your board all in one go is really important. But Teal Mask Ogerpon is also a grass type, and Charizard EX, being a Terrestrial Dark type, is weak to grass. So actually coming in and attacking with that Myriad Leaf Shower is also really important. And the reason why it's one of my top fantasy picks is if we are playing a Regidrago or a Raging Bolt, you're going to have 3 or 4 copies of that Ogerpon within those deck lists quite comfortably. And I'm backing that to do pretty nicely. The Manaphy is giving me coverage into the evolving decks, the likes of the Charizard Pidgeot, the likes of Gardevoir, the likes of Dragapult Pidgeot as well. All of these decks pretty much have to play Manaphy right now in format to safeguard themselves against Wellspring, Ogerpon, Mask, EX as well. having to protect against the Radiant Greninja, having to protect against all sorts of spread-style strategies. Of course, the new one being Kyurem as well, that is showing up in Regidrago. So I think you need to have that Wave Veil if you're going to play any evolution deck, and I am still backing those to be quite powerful options. The Luminion V gives me coverage into Lugia, where you often see this as a 1 or 2 counts, more often towards the 2, which is great because it can, of course, tutor supporters for you. And Lugia is all about trying to get some discard synergy in the opening stages to get rid of your Archeops. And Luminion is instrumental in doing that by grabbing Professor's Research, or possibly even like a Jacques supporter, for example, to grab a couple evolutions immediately to the hand to then Ultra Ball them away. And we know that we can put Luminion back into the deck if you attach your Legacy energy to it, and it can just Aqua Return, so you're not giving up those prize cards, which I think is really helpful in the list as well. But then also Luminion shows up in all sorts of decks. It's also going to be pretty useful in the Charizard archetype. I see that a lot of the time. We even have seen things like Collapse Stadium plus Luminion in Gardevoir as well. So it's just going to be around the board another great sort of coverage pick, even if it shows up in just 1 or 2 counts within deck lists. Speaking of which, Radiant Charizard, it has to be a one-off in lists, so you can never see a second copy. But it's just showing up in some of the best decks, to be honest with you. It's going into the Charizard, certainly, and it can also go into Pidgeot controlling decks, as the Radiant of choice is a sweeping style Pokemon. Sometimes we are seeing Radiant Gardevoir being a recent addition, because that can allow the Pidgeot EX to stay out of range of a Regidrago, which is like a new niche thing. But I would expect most Pidgeots to play Charizard as the Radiant. I would expect Charizard EX to play it as well, and I would expect it to be very popular in the Regidrago matchup, because it can safeguard you against some of these aggressive 2-prize strategies that I mentioned, the Miraidons, the Raging Bolts and such, where you're constantly giving up these 2 prizes. That's a big problem for the Regidrago. So suddenly having an INO plus Radiant Charizard play can swing that for you, and I think that's a really big deal. The final one is Fluttermane. This is also just giving me more coverage into Gardevoir, where I'm expecting it to probably be a 2 count right now in the deck list, with more emphasis on TM Devolution and Monkey Dory going into the Gardevoir lists. But also having Fluttermane can also give me coverage into that Lugia side of things as well, if that's making top 8s, because Fluttermane can often show up as a 1 count, as something that you can jet energy into the active early on, certainly against Lost Zone strategies if they remain popular, but also against Iron Thorns, which I think is really important, because if Iron Thorns is shutting down your summoning star, you can't get your Archeops into play. So seeing that Fluttermane as a one-of is pretty important in Lugia right now. So yeah, that's the sort of philosophy around my picks. I don't think, again, this is a strategy that necessarily wins that big Arcanine plush, which is what we're all looking for, but I think that would probably get me into that sort of the high percentiles of people in the fantasy drafts, and that's how I want to do things. I want to hedge my bets a little bit.
Yeah, it seems like you've got a really strong grasp of the overall metagame, what decks have a high chance of just making it to those upper echelons, not necessarily winning the whole thing. And if you at home like to just copy these picks, or you think you've got better ones, go to fantasy.pokemon.com and submit your teams. And as you've kind of broken down all of these different archetypes, Joe, we can come back around as well to the Twitch drops that we're going to have for our viewers at home. We are supporting a lot of archetypes right now, but the Twitch drops are going to give you a nice setup heading into Shrouded Fable. You want to break these down for us?
Yeah, well, we can get some lovely sleeves and deck box and coin, which is always great to swag out your decks when you're playing on PTG Live, which is really important. You can also get some crystals as well as packs of Shrouded Fable, the new set, of course, where I've already broken down a handful of the really impactful cards, but trust me, there's more that I could go into, but we just don't have the time for Shrouded Fable. But yeah, you want to get your hands on this set. It's a small set, so it's very likely you actually pull the cards you're looking for as well for your collection, and you can get going with the new strategies here. So that's one of the big Twitch drops that we can get. We can start blinging out our lists with some great sleeves and deck box. It's always nice to be involved with the world structure and stuff, and it lets people know that you're up against someone who's in tune with the metagame as well, which I think is a nice thing to see. So you know that your opponent's in for a tough time, and that's always something you want to keep an eye on. But there's also a Petrunt EX, I believe, that we might be giving away during the event
let's
itself.
talk about
and
that.
That's another very strong card, to be honest with you. It's another one that we didn't really go into in too much detail, but I do think Subjugating Chains, that ability, once again, could be monstrous, to be honest with you. This has synergy with Darkness Pokemon, We've already talked about Charizard EX a couple of times being one of the premier dark types. And Poison actually isn't a downside with the new Binding Mochi tool that we get in Shrouded Fable, where poisoned Pokemon can deal 40 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, which is very, very dangerous with Charizard. Pushing that 180 baseline damage output into 220 straight away allows you to knock out a lot of basic Vs and EXs, which I think is huge. But also, after you've given up 2 prize cards, now you can hit 280 with a Binding Mochi combination with Pecharunt, and that's really big for V-Star matchups and dealing with opposing Pidgeot EX, which could be good for the mirror match and could be good for another huge number of situations as well. Of course, another great thing about Pecharunt is that it's going to help you out against the annoying block strategies of Snorlax. I think all season, Charizard has either had to dodge Snorlax to see success or tech quite heavily against it, and Pecharunt could easily be that tech. It's not taking up too many spaces in the deck list to just throw this down. Then you can constantly use Subjugating Chains if ever other Pokemon are being trapped into the active position. You can use that Pecharunt EX to push Charizard from the bench back into the active spot, which I think is really handy, actually. And there are murmurs of Control being good once again. You know, it's won a couple of regionals this season, so we know that it has great pedigree behind it. So I think respecting that matchup with Pecharunt means that this is going to be a really big pickup for us. And it's a specialist illustration rare as well, which is also just a great thing to have to bring out your list even more.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be great to have on TCG Live to get that practice in to find out just how and how many to stick in your deck.
The archetypes that we're going to be seeing at Worlds are just new flavors of the core metagame, I think, that we've experienced and sharpened over the course of the entire season, and everything is going to be flipped on its head, so it's exciting to see where suddenly bad matchups become good matchups. If you put in just a couple cards, or decks that were underdogs are now ruling over the meta and need to be strongly considered. But, Joe, I have one thing for you. What is your hot take for this upcoming tumultuous meta in Honolulu?
Tumultuous is a great way to put it. And I think chaos can sometimes be a ladder. And I think Iron Thorns EX might well be climbing that ladder of chaos. Because I think of the top decks in the room right now, a lot of them are reliant on abilities of Rulebox Pokemon. And the initialization ability cancels all of those out as long as they're not future Pokemon. And my hot take is that Iron Thorns is going to win at least one of the age divisions for the World Championships, because I do think it has some quite polarized matchups, but can completely brick wall some archetypes. And I think that's going to be huge. Ross Cawthon, someone who's had a historied career at the World Championships, played this at the NAIC. And if he brings it to Worlds, it might even win the Masters division, to be honest with you. So that's my hot take.
I like it. I like it.
Adam likes it. You're grinning. For someone with a little less context, why is this the spiciest and hottest take right now?
Well, it plays just so differently from most archetypes. It just has 4 Pokemon, very often just the Iron Thorns EX themselves, and it's using that legacy energy, trying to be a beefy, annoying, slow strategy, and has lots of these frustrating and disruptive supporter cards in there as well. Could even play the new Zerosix Machination supporter to disrupt cards from your opponent's hand. Oftentimes it's playing 4 copies of Crushing Hammer. We know that's a favorite in the TCG for some disruption players, and one that people hate to play against because it's coin flips for energy removal. And it just feels well positioned, to be honest with you. Now that Regidrago is sort of right at the top of the meta, and one of the counter archetypes is Lugia, the fact that Iron Thorns can come in and capitalize on possibly both of those strategies means that it might have, you know, just a good string of matchups and go quite far in the tournament.
Oh, that does sound exciting.
Yeah, as a Regidrago V-Star enjoyer, the Iron Thorns is absolutely terrifying. Your opening hand has to be the best thing you've ever seen in your life, or you are not going to have a good time.
Oh, I shouldn't be opening with my Luminion as the only basic in my hand. No, that's me a lot, so.
I know, we've got the Lugia player, the Regidrago player, the Iron Thorns has me quaking. I think a lot of players are going to fall victim. That's a really good hot take, Joe. And do you have any final thoughts as well for our viewers at home, or just about your excitement for Worlds before we let you take a quick break?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to being a spectator for this Worlds and just watching the chaos ensue. I want to see some big highlight reel moments from Dustoir. I want to see how people incorporate a lot of these new cards from Shrouded Fable. I'm personally a massive believer of the Pecharunt EX Binding Mochi combo. I think that might be a little bit under the radar for Charizard, and we know that it has the pedigree behind it, that it could be going quite far into the tournament as well. And even complex archetypes like Pidgeot Control when played by the best players in the world, you can really see some incredible turns carved out and some really intricate lines of play. So these are decks that I really have my eye on for the World Championships, with the new inclusions of Shrouded Fable, under the sort of illusion that Reggie Drago is also just going to be out there having some crazy turns where you're using Squawkabilly, using Professor's Research, using, Legacy Star on a future turn and piecing all sorts of combinations together. We're going to have some big pop-offs, I think, from Reggie Drago throughout the weekend.
Joe, thank you so much. I'm so much more excited, and I was already really excited to be watching TCG at Worlds. And it sounds like you'll be around and with the people, so make sure they come up and say hi to you, perhaps? No, stay away from Joe. In fact, don't talk to Joe. Well, thank you so much for those insights, Joe. We got a lot to get through, but we'll be checking in with you towards the end of the show. And Adam, we've got to get Evan Lott in here next.
Oh yeah, VG is next up on the docket. Another fantastic game and another fantastic talent from the community. How are you feeling, Evan?
I am feeling great, Adam. I am also feeling very jealous because I think Iron Thorns is extremely rad, and I love that TCG might get a chance to see some Iron Thorns action this next weekend.
Yeah, we enjoy the future Pokemon over on our side, and I think that VG has historically been ruled by more ancient Pokemon. Regarding your general thoughts on the season, has that really been the overall vibe?
That was up until Regulation G. The past Paradox, the ancient Pokemon were much more dominant earlier on in the season. But with Regulation G coming up, which again allows for one restricted Pokemon per team, that has opened up a whole new avenue for the future Paradox Pokemon in Miraidon finally being legal. Of course, Miraidon is able to set the electric terrain that allows all of those future Paradox Pokemon to actually get their Quark Drive boost for possibly the first time ever. Did you know Iron Hands has an ability? Because it does, and it boosts its attack most often. It's been good without an ability before this. This has been a really exciting season overall. We've had an incredible season of Pokemon all the way back at the beginning, starting at the Pittsburgh Regional Championships, playing in Regulation D to now in Regulation G. And we've seen some big changes to the World Championships as well. Previously, players were able to earn an invite straight into Day 2 of the tournament. Now players are only able to earn a Round 1 bye. So everyone will be playing on the first day of the World Championships. And there will be a lot of players playing in that first day. Over 800 players have qualified for the World Championships in the Masters division.
So it's already shaping up to be a huge end cap to a fantastic season of growth for VG. A lot of shakeups as the regulations have changed overall. And to kind of help us focus in on the players for Honolulu, our heavy hitters, so to speak, you've kind of curated some of your top picks. You want to jump into those for us, please, Evan?
Yeah, let's go region by region, starting with Europe. Europe has historically been one of our stronger regions here at the Video Game Championships, and Aurélien Sula has had an incredible breakout season so far this year, arguably the best season for a French player in VGC history. Aurélien, they unfortunately have not won a championship, but have made it to 3 separate finals. First, up against Simone Sanvito in the Lille Regional Championship, then up against Nikhil Reddy in the Utrecht Championship, and then finally, most recently, the finals of the North American International Championships, where Aurélien did lose to Patrick Connors. But that type of consistency is extremely strong in a game like Pokemon. For the Video Game Championships, there is so much variance. If you can make it to the finals 3 times of 3 extremely important events, you are absolutely a threat heading into the World Championships. And this is because Aurélien plays really strong, safe plays, but is very able to adapt to their opponent's play style. We saw this in the North American International Championships, this Game 2 against Patrick Connors. Aurélien was able to just understand and condition Patrick to go for some plays, to go for moves that left his Calyrex open, hit that with the Grimmsnarl's foul play, took that Pokemon off the field immediately, and then Patrick was on the back foot after game 2. Of course, Patrick was able to win in game 3 once that Pelipper came out, like we saw in our preview. But this is a player, Aurelian, who I would expect to go very deep in the tournament. And Aurelian's not alone. There are so many strong European players out there. I would be remiss if I did not mention Michel Kelsch from Germany, who was our 2023 Worlds runner-up and won the Stockholm Regional Championship this year, proving that stunning success at last year's World Championships. Michel had played for about 6 months VGC prior to the World Championships. That was no fluke. Yeah, right? 6 months, and you're the runner-up at the World Championships. Now, of course, Michel knows how to play Pokemon. He had been playing so much Pokemon ahead of that, but showing up at the World Championships for the video game championships and getting runner-up after 6 months, really good. And I think a lot of players may have wondered if that was a fluke, but it wasn't.
Yeah, if you're listening at home, you feel like you want to compete in the VGC in any of these games, there's still a shot. This is a beautiful story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, incredible. Proved it by winning Stockholm this year. Cemented himself as a player to be afraid of at the tournament. I would not want to pair up against Michel Kelsch in any of my rounds at the World Championships.
What talent.
Also have to give a shout out to Antonio Sanchez of Spain, who has had a pretty short but a mighty season so far. Won the Liverpool Championships, made top 4 at Bologna and top 8 at the North American International Championships. This is Antonio's first World Championships appearance and will have a round 1 bye. So Antonio in their first World Championships, starting off 1-0 going into round 2 of the tournament, another player you don't want to see across from the table on your round 2. And finally, for Europe, I can't mention Europe without mentioning 2022's world champion Eduardo Cunha of Portugal. Started off the season by winning the Barcelona special event, most recently placed top 4 at the North American International Championships, and also won the 3rd Global Challenge. So he can play the best of 3 open team sheet format that we've been playing, and also the best of 1 closed team sheet. And that kind of adaptability is the sign of a world champion and someone that you don't want to be paired against going into the World Championships.
We've got a lot of players with a lot of intimidating aura, some prodigies, some players that have had stellar seasons so far with solid play. But how does that compare to the rest of our regions?
Well, if we look at North America, I really struggle to think of a player from North America that may be able to win Wolf Glick.
Oh yeah, that rings a bell.
What is there to say about Wolf Glick? Like, what are we supposed to do here? He's the 2016 world champion. He won 2 regional championships this season alone. Plus, and I forgot about this before I started looking up for the show, he made the finals of the first regional championship in Pittsburgh as well. You know, he won 2 regional championships. I forgot all about the one time that he lost in the finals at the start of the season. This is Wolf's best season probably since the first season he ever played, all the way back in 2011, when he won his first regional championship at the Washington, D.C. metro area. That was his first tournament. Then he won the United States National Championship, the second tournament he entered. And then he made top 8 at the World Championships, his 3rd tournament ever, losing only to then defending world champion Ray Rizzo.
And
he's on fire
some innovation this year as well, right? We had a little bit of a mid-season excitement with some Articuno play.
The Articuno was from the European region that unfortunately Aurelian did lose to in the finals against Nikhil Reddy. But the Articuno has been one of those things that preys on some of these standard cores in the VGC meta that Wolf has been trying out a lot this season, trying to make sure that he understands the best possible pieces. And I think that's because coming back to Hawaii is pretty big for Wolf. The last time he was here in Hawaii at the World Championships was another incredible run at the 2012 World Championships in Hawaii. He made it all the way to the finals before running up against, you guessed it, then defending 2-time world champion Ray Rizzo. Now we're back in Hawaii. Wolf is stronger than ever, and in my opinion, even stronger than in 2016 when he finally became the world champion. And there's no Ray Rizzo in the field to stop him.
Well,
this
after
seems like if I'm
having
not
such a
it's hard to say who's going to
start.
win, but Wolf is a really strong candidate here.
I mean, he's gone from just dominating the metagame to almost deciding the meta. A lot of players look up to him and use his techniques and team building strategies in order to see success for themselves. Are there any other players in NA that maybe we should be looking out for, though?
Yeah, great segue there. Michael Zhang is a player from North America who has been setting the conversation with the metagame. This is a player who won the Sacramento Regional Championship earlier this year with a really innovative Psychic Terra type, Tyranitar, and Iron Defense Komo-O team that then has sort of evolved into the Zamazenta team for Regulation G. This is it's a variation of that team that Michel Kelsch actually used to win the Stockholm Championship. And Michael Zhang has shown that he will bring any Pokemon to any tournament, even the World Championships. You have to be able to adapt on the fly if you're going to go up against Michael Zhang. Two other players that I think we absolutely have to keep our eye on just because of their incredible success in international competition. Two players from North America, Patrick Connors and Tim Edwards, had extreme breakout tournaments at the North American and the European International Championships, respectively. Of course, Patrick won NAIC and Tim came in second at EUIC. Both of these are players that I don't think anyone really had their eye on outside of their home region. Of course, everyone in their locals knew exactly how strong both of them were, but now everyone in the world does. So we have to keep an eye on them as we're moving into the World Championships.
And if we continue along for our key players to watch, I know you have a pick from LATAM as well, if you want to break this down for us too, Evan.
Yeah, let's talk about Juan Salerno from Argentina. Juan is the Buenos Aires Special Event Champion and has had a very consistent season this year with multiple top cuts and good showings at both the European International Championships and the North American International Championships. And this is really good for him. In the past, Juan has struggled in international competition, but this season has a top 16 in the NAIC and a top 32 at EUIC. Juan is in a really good position to have a big World Championship showing. And this wouldn't be the first time that people were surprised by a Latin American player making a deep run in the World Championships in the VGC series. Of course, we saw Paul Ruiz, our 2018 World Champion from Ecuador, also earned a round one bye in this year's World Championships, previously made top 4 at the World Championships. And we also have other top players like Gabriel Legatti, who has made it to the finals of 2 international championships, still missing a big finish this season, but with all of that international competition and experience, Gabriel is someone that we would expect to perform very well. And the counterpart to Tim and Patrick from North America, Thiago Latanzi from Brazil, who also made a huge splash at the local Latin American International Championship, coming in second place after, again, not really being on anyone's radar outside of his region, but that rogue Reggie Alecki team, if you remember it, really showed the value of a surprise pick, and I'm really excited to see what this player brings to Worlds. And again, Rachel, like you were saying, these are players who sort of come out of nowhere, who've been playing Pokemon for a while in their local community and then have one big tournament. You can do that in the VGC.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Maybe not for next week. Time's a little crunched, but start thinking about next year. Start thinking about who you want to compete with and against, and maybe check out some Wolf Glick videos too to catch up.
Yeah, it seems like no matter which region you're backing, you're going to have some strong players from there that are going to make you proud. As we move on to, I think, Oceania, you have another pick for us as well, Evan.
Okay, so it is wild to me to be talking about Nicholas Kahn as a player to watch in the Masters division. Nicholas first started competing back in 2013 in the juniors division as a child, and we have watched him grow up all these 11 long years since. he really is just a great example of success in the younger age divisions translating into success in the Masters division. He actually won the World Championships in the Juniors division back in 2017 before graduating into the Seniors division, where he made back-to-back World's top cuts, including a finalist appearance in 2022. And last year, Nicholas made it all the way to day 2 of the World Championships in his first Worlds as a Master. Now, Nicholas is at the top of the heap in the Oceania region for his second World Championships as a Master, and Oceania has yet to deliver a World Championship trophy in the Masters division, but Nicholas's rising star very well may be their best chance to do so. I'm also keeping my eye out on Megan Rattle in the Oceania region, who has also been an incredibly skilled player, trainer, multiple top 8 finishes in 2019 and 2022. As well, we have all the other players from the formerly Oceania region now competing in their own national championships, like in Singapore or Malaysia or the Philippines. Specifically, I want to shout out to Chayawat Triwicha, who's the Thai champion. And second time they've won the Thai championship. Regular at the top of leaderboards and online competition. And Melvin Keh, who has played in 7 World Championships, the Singapore finalist this year, and has played in day 2 of Worlds every year since 2016. It's come really close to making it into the top cut for the World Championships and would be a huge thing for that region.
Yeah, there's so much history, so much skill in this international competition of Pokemon VGC. And I know you have a couple more picks for us here. If we move over to the APAC region, you touched a little bit on Singapore, but we've got Shohei here from Japan.
Yeah, let's talk about Shohei Kimura. Of course, Shohei is our defending world champion, and he got there by becoming the top competitor from one of Pokemon's strongest regions, Japan. This is due in large part to their strong local play community. Japanese competitors are holding so many different tournaments locally, meeting up to compete against each other outside of the official circuit to hone their craft, to continue to get better and better and better. Now, history is against Shohei on a repeat performance in 2024. We haven't had a 2-time world champion since Ray Rizzo, and Japan has never won a world championships in the Masters division in an even-numbered year.
Okay, I was like, there's something
real
coming.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I don't think that you can
However,
play competitive Pokemon without developing a little bit of superstition.
Yeah, you know.
Exactly. Sometimes you just have to let, the universe decide. But, I think the meta has sort of shifted to a place where Shohei is going to feel very competitive at the World Championships. A lot of the same tools that Shohei was using last season are still around and still as strong as ever. Of course, there are a number of other incredibly strong trainers from the region. I'd like to shout out Hirofumi Kimura, who is a 2-time Japanese champion, a Worlds finalist, and one of the most consistently strong Japanese players out there. Came really close in 2019. And their 2013 World Championships team ultimately was what inspired the regional and special event championship teams of Simone Sanvito and Choppa Cross on the other side of the globe, making Hirofumi really a key trendsetter to watch during the World Championships.
Another great
I also
list
can't
of names
end.
that is going to be ended up
Absolutely.
by...
One more. I promise you it's worth it.
You can have one more as a treat.
Seijun Park is back. Ace Pachirisu trainer Seijun Park is qualified for the World Championships this year, representing Korea. Of course, since becoming the 2014 World Champion, Seijun has moved on to qualify to compete at Worlds in every single game represented at the World Championships, including the trading card game Pokemon Go, Pokemon Unite, and even participated in the debut show tournament for Pokken, establishing himself as the Pokemon Decathlon champion.
Okay, that's a lot of legacy to live up to, a lot of skill to contend with. And as we focus now on the metagame for Honolulu, we've got a question here from social media about which restricted Pokemon has the best chance to win the entire tournament, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think this is a great question and actually leads me into the next topic that I have to talk about our restricted Pokemon that are available. I think there are pretty clear tiers of the restricted Pokemon. 2 Pokemon I think are at the absolute top, maybe 3. Miraidon and Calyrex Shadow Rider definitely at the top. Maybe Calyrex Ice Rider sneaks in there as well. But then I think there are a number of other Pokemon that are maybe viable, but not quite as strong for various reasons. Miraidon does so much damage. having the ability to set electric terrain, give itself a boost to its own special attack, and do big damage with Life Orb, with Choice Specs, even with a Magnet item. Miraidon does a lot of damage. We saw it picking up one-hit KOs on Pokemon like Incineroar with Volt Switch, which both does damage and allows Miraidon to retreat back to its partner, and then be able to reposition and take control of the match. Miraidon, you're going to see this paired along with speed control Pokemon like Farigiraf and Whimsicott, as well as those future Paradox Pokemon like Iron Hands to get the boost to the Quark Drive. Now, moving from the Velodrome to the Equestrian Arena, Calyrex Shadow Rider is kind of the premier restricted Pokemon, probably the most common choice for trainers at the World Championships, I would expect, because of its high speed, powerful Astral Barrage, and the ability to boost its stats multiple ways. Nasty Plot, giving it 2 stages of special attack, Calm Mind, 1 special attack, 1 special defense, and or Grim Neigh, which of course allows it to pick up a special attack boost when it gets a knockout. Now, the thing about Calyrex Shadow Rider, and because it is so common, is the mirror is a very important matchup. So you're going to see a lot of weird techs on Calyrex teams, Shadow Rider teams, that things like normal Terra type, because you may see a Shadow Rider Calyrex terrestrialize into the normal type just to be immune to enemy Calyrex Astral Barrages. Also check out item choices like Covert Cloak to prevent against snarls. And also, we've seen things like Baton Pass in DD Female, able to protect this Pokemon from as many things as possible. And finally, Kyogre. This was the biggest threat back when I started in 2010. It is no longer a big fish in a small pond, but it is still a big fish. It's not the favorite to win, but it's still powerful and honestly pretty underexplored. It's usually held back by the low accuracy of Origin Pulse, which only has 80% to keep it from being a consistent threat. But with the size of this World Championships and enough trainers out there showing that they're willing to experiment with non-standard Pokemon like Wo-Chien and Overqwil in previous tournaments, I would expect a group of trainers working together on a Kyogre team to make a splash with at least one managing to hit those important Origin Pulses and make a deep run.
Yeah, just trying to play the odds. If you've got a good Pokemon that's low accuracy, it's only a matter of time before it lines up. And as we move over to our top non-restricted Pokemon to kind of coincide with those, break down the Incineroar, Urshifu, and Rillaboom for us, Evan.
Yeah, so people who have been following along with the video game championships or playing Regulation G, or even before that, will not be surprised. This is the Trinity here, the Fire, Water, Grass core of the meta. Incineroar, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, and Rillaboom. These 3 Pokemon put out so much pressure because of their abilities to switch in and out really easily, either via Parting Shot or U-Turn from Incineroar, or U-Turn from Rillaboom and Urshifu. Now, what that does is it gives the pilot so much agency in the game to control the speed of the matchup, to get their pieces out on the field at will, and making sure that you, as the opponent, don't get a chance to attack safely. Being able to cycle Incineroar and Rillaboom in and out and keeping up fake-out pressure constantly, makes you afraid to protect, which leaves you open to being hit by a powerful Woodhammer from Rillaboom, or knockoff or Flare Blitz from Incineroar, or Urshifu comes out and you can't protect in front of Urshifu anyway, so then you just take a Surging Strikes to the face and lose a Pokemon. So expect to see these 3 Pokemon all over the place at the tournament, but expect to see some text to make them fit the team a little bit better. Particularly, Assault Vest on Incineroar is a popular item in order to help it against more of the special threats and give it more access to the offensive options of its move pool. But you can also see Helping Hand for more support, or even more offense coming out in the Miracle Seed or Choice Band on Rillaboom. And Urshifu can run anything from Focus Sash to Mystic Water to Choice Scarf, and on non-Scarf sets, Taunt on Urshifu has proven to be an extremely powerful and disruptive ability.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to consider when we look at just these small handfuls of Pokemon that are so prominent in the Pokemon VG. And this kind of leads me to my next segment for you, Evan, is your fantasy picks. If you had to pick 6 Pokemon that are going to see massive success here, what do you think is going to be those top 6 for our viewers at home?
Well, they look familiar.
Yeah, so these are some good Pokemon here, but I tried not to go with the most blazingly obvious ones because I want that Arcanine. I want that giant plush. And I don't win that by having everyone else pick the same things. That being said, my restricted slot, I have chosen Miraidon. I think it's the best restricted in the format right now. It's the most adaptable, gives you a lot of room to pivot, a lot of agency to the pilot. For your unrestricted legendary, I have selected Chi-Yu. You could, of course, put Urshifu Rapid Strike here, mostly because Beads of Ruin adds even more damage to powerful special attackers in the field. Plus, its typing gives it an excellent matchup against Calyrex Shadow Rider teams and up against both Incineroar and the Rillaboom part of the Rillaboom Incineroar Urshifu core. Next up, your Paldea Dex Pokemon I have selected for Rigorath here because it is, to me, the best Trick Room setter in the format. Normal typing matches up really well into the Shadow Rider Calyrex, and Armor Tail is just one of the best abilities in the game, protecting its partners from all priority attacks, but especially Fake Out. And now for the final row of the fantasy team, from the Kitakami Dex Pokemon, I have selected Grimmsnarl. It gets Priority Reflect and Light Scream, which is extremely necessary for any slower placed team to keep up with the power of the restricted Pokemon in the field. One of the only ways you can consistently lower the damage output of a Calyrex Shadow Rider, of a Miraidon, of even a Terapagos or a Kyogre in the field. So this is a Pokemon that I expect to see pop up a lot more after we saw it do very well on Aurelian's North American International Championships team. Another Pokemon here, Blast from the Past for Blueberry Dex, I have selected Smeargle, because it can do anything. And I think trainers are finally figuring out where Smeargle fits in the meta as the best support Pokemon in the game. It's endlessly customizable to fit on your team, and it's really great as an enabler. So if you ever see a Smeargle coming up on stream or in one of your matches, look for what Pokemon it is enabling on that team. Those of you who want to go the safe route for fantasy, Rillaboom or Incineroar can also go here. Finally, your wild card Pokemon.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Rachel.
No, this is the wild card. I'm gonna lay out for this one.
Yeah, well, the wild card, it's getting crazy here. A storm is a brewing. As the wildest Pokemon of all time, Pelipper is my choice for the wild card Pokemon. And I have selected it because it almost single-handedly shuts down Groudon and Koraidon teams. That's part of why we don't see them at the top tables, despite being extremely strong Pokemon on their own. The Pelipper has weather control, it brings the rain, it has speed control and tailwind, and it has damage control with Wide Guard, being able to protect its partner from any spread attacks. Plus, the combination of Weather Ball and Hurricane make for a perfect Fire, Water, Grass core breaker, hitting all of Incineroar, Rillaboom, and Urshifu for super effective damage. You could also put the other one of Rillaboom or Incineroar here.
Checks out.
Yeah, I really love the pick of the Pelipper. This is going to give a lot of inspiration to our fans at home for their fantasy picks, and maybe they will win that Jumbo Arcanine plush. But even if you don't win anything from the fantasy, we do still have great rewards for you if you tune in to the World's stream. We've got another distribution going for VG to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about this distribution as well, because we are going to be getting the Sylveon from Senior World Champion 2023 Tomoya Ogawa, now graduated into the Masters division and will be competing at the World Championships as a Master. This is a really interesting Pokemon to have coming out as a distribution, especially as we move into Regulation H, where I think Sylveon might actually see a lot more play.
As the metagame moves forward, I love that our fans in the audience can very easily pick up these Pokemon that have proven to be very strong within the current competition, and that's going to help them find their footing, certainly. And when we look forward to not only the upcoming meta game, but the specific tournament in Honolulu that's coming up, what is your hot take, Evan?
Oh, well, how hot do you want? Do you want mild, medium, hot?
No, I need the most caliente.
Okay, so you want the Nashville hot.
The hottest, yes.
Yeah,
Nashville hot.
The Nashville, please.
That's going to be, for me, none of Incineroar, Rillaboom, and Urshifu Rapid Strike will win the World Championships. Those three Pokemon are too strong. They have been too over-indexed for. None of them win a World Championships this year.
Okay, so there's the team that figures out how to do without them or just counter them completely is going to be what takes it all down. A very daring hot take indeed, Evan.
A matter of like you being like in the know, so you know something's coming, or is this just kind of like a manifesting wish into the universe right now? What do you know?
Yeah, no, like getting Nashville hot chicken, this is me making a horrible mistake that I'll pay for later.
And I guess to wrap things up, Evan, thank you so much for your really in-depth analysis to set the stage beautifully for VG. Do you have any closing thoughts for our viewers at home before we let you take a quick break?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a really exciting tournament. And I'm so thrilled to be able to watch it from home. The first time I watched the World Championships was the 2010 World Championships in Hawaii, kind of the birthplace for the video game championships in the West. We were watching a phone stream of someone just filming live the TV monitors that were set up around the venue. And now we get to watch the full professional stream, and I am so excited to be able to do that.
That's a really great story. I'm glad that it has come full circle and how our community has continued to grow.
Absolutely. And like you said, what a coming home for Pokemon. What another great reason to watch Worlds. And thank you so much for your insights. This is not goodbye. This is see you later. But before we have you, take a chill pill, we've got to bring in our final commentator. We've got to get that final drop of knowledge, and this is about Unite. So who else but Zoinks is joining us? Zoinks, how you doing, buddy?
What's going on? I'm back. Third time. Sorry, everybody else gets new faces. Unite just gets the repeat. I apologize, or you're welcome. It really depends on who you ask. Hi, I'm Zoinks.
I'm grateful.
Yeah, there's something new behind you, too, this time. We always see some action on the whiteboard. Oh. I cannot quite see what's behind you, but I do look forward to exploring it, and I have to wonder if it has much to do with the year of Unite we've had and what we are leading up into, Zoinks.
It has everything. It has everything to do with the year we've had. Last time I was on this show, I apparently didn't clean my room enough and I left the script up on the whiteboard, so my apologies. This time I made sure that wasn't still on there. I have worked on it diligently, but instead I, at some point, ranked in terms of how well I think they will do at Worlds all 30 teams, 1 through 30. An absolute impossible challenge, and there's 0% chance that that list is right, but just in case it is, I have evidence.
I'm glad that you're securing your future there, Mr. Zoinks. The way a lot of our competitors are also trying to secure their futures.
Absolutely. And speaking of securing futures, there are some teams that have already secured their futures and their plane flights out to Hawaii. Zoinks, it's a big old list. We got lots of players, 5 for each Unite team. Take me through what we're looking at here.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, we have, of course, 8 groups again. 30 teams in total qualified this year, whether for regional performances or doing extremely well in our 2 qualification tournaments. We had 2 big tournaments at EUIC and NEIC that awarded a chance to play in the World Championships. So, lots of ways to qualify. It has been a very exciting year. These are the 8 groups of teams that we're looking at. Small change this year. It is going to be 2 teams making it out of every single group this year on day 1, and then in day 2 it is going to be a 16-team single elimination bracket. It is going to be a wild day 2, where in the end we will just have 1 champion.
16 teams, single elimination bracket. That's as close as you can get to a battle royale with still having a bracket involved, but all these teams, so much skill coming to bear. We've got a lot to dive into. Do you want to talk about some of the qualified teams?
Yeah, for sure. Let's pick a couple teams to watch. I want to start with North America, because North America has won back-to-back World Championships now. We've only had 2, and North America has won them both. But this year, we're going to be watching the Orange Juicers. They were the North American Regional Champions that competed at NAIC. This team is extremely strong. We have a lot of great players on this roster. And qualifying out of a region like North America, which obviously evidence is a very strong region after winning 2 World Championships in a row. I'm going to repeat that as many times as I can. But, of course, Orange Juicers are an extremely strong team. And in fact, the metagame that we're in right now after the Shadow Flame patch has a few Pokemon that are exceptionally strong, Charizard being one of them, and the central area player for Orange Juicers, Kratos, is a known Charizard player. So this is a super exciting time for this team. It could be their time in the metagame. I'm super excited for it.
Orange Juicers sounding really good, but they are far and away from the only team that is well known in this space. And these other teams, well, tell me a little bit about what else is out there.
Sure, let's hop on over to Europe where Nouns Esports have also qualified. Now, this is kind of a household name at this point in time in Pokemon Unite. Nouns Esports is an organization that has competed all 3 years. In fact, in year 1, when we were playing in London for the World Championships, Nouns Esports got 2nd place. So they made it extremely far in year 2, in year 1, in year 2, didn't quite make it out of groups, but potentially in year 3, this could be it, their chance at the gold. They are an incredibly flexible team. So many of these players on this roster, Gatlu, Sarayu, and Toonslim in particular, are well known for playing basically any Pokemon in the game. You never know what they're going to play. That is one of the biggest strengths of Nouns Esports.
All these teams bring so much entertainment, so I'll go right down the line. Fusion.
Yeah, all right. Fusion, one of our first, I think, people's favorites to win the tournament. Fusion have done this really cool thing this year where they have not lost a single tournament they've played in. They have gotten first place at every single event. Both their regional events, all of their online tournaments, the regional championships included, first place, as well as the AOS Cup at EUIC, which I talked about on this show a little while ago. But they got first place at the Invitational International Tournament as well. So Fusion, I think at this point they don't know how to lose, so definitely a safe bet for the World Championships.
Yeah, got to keep the streak alive. Going into World Championships with a clean tournament win record like that.
But when we're talking about regions, sure.
No, sorry, I was just gonna say, winning every single tournament in an entire tournament series, it's legendary. I think it would be unbelievable.
You know, all of these teams, they have so many different accolades to their names, and Unite likes to set itself apart from the other games as well. Region-wise, we've got 2 teams next up that we're going to take a look at that, represent something pretty cool here.
Yeah, Japan is a incredibly strong region. They had 2 teams making it to the top 8 last year. We have 2 teams on this team to watch list this year. First up is going to be Zeta Division, who used to be going under the name Kabi-chans, recently picked up by that organization. They are unbelievably strong, so much so that they competed in the Asia Champions League and won it in a dominant way, which is sort of outside of the main way to qualify for Worlds, but still a very exciting Pokemon Unite League. And then they got to play at that same AOS Cup tournament where they finished 2nd, but changed up the meta entirely. This team is so incredibly strong, well known for keeping the pressure on at the early moments of the game, notorious for invading your central area where all of your safe experiences normally on the team, invading as a group of 5 and just unrelenting pressure at any given time. They are such a hard team to play against. I don't know if I'd pick them to win the tournament. They have a good shot at it, but they are the team that I would probably want to avoid the most at a tournament.
Yeah, I wonder what they're doing mentally to their opponents, just putting up games like that, having those replays out there. Like, go ahead, study what we've done. No fear.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, though, there's one team that has been able to defeat them this year. Well, maybe 2, if we include Fusion. But Fennel, the other team from Japan, formerly going as Champion Lord this year, are the Japanese regional winners. They were able to take down Zeta Division in the grand finals of this tournament. And this team is truly looking like the tournament favorite this year. Fennel plays... It's hard to describe it in any other word other than perfect. From game start to game end, they make so few mistakes, and they just have world-class players across the board. Their top path player named P is well known for, well, I want to say well known, has been called the Japanese Overlord. Overlord, of course, a player who's won Worlds twice on Luminosity Gaming and proven to be one of the best players in the entire world, if not the best. P coming for that title, it seems, this year with their Blaziken play, and I have to imagine some of the metagame threats these days, like Ceruledge and Gyarados, they are going to be truly an expert in. So This team, I think, is what everybody has eyes on for potentially being the toughest team to beat at Worlds this year.
It's so amazing that in such a short time, Unite has built not just the history, but such a storied history. So many players that it's now referential to refer to other players as the Overlord. Unite, just so exciting. And Zoinks, we do have a question from social as well. We've got Jimmy Keefe 99 who wants to know who is going to be the biggest surprise pick in Unite, the dark horse, if you will.
Ooh, okay, biggest surprise pick. There's some interesting ones. It's tough to call, right? Because World Championships is always regional metagames clashing, which makes this a difficult one to decide. One that if you've just been watching official UCS or Unite Championship Series tournaments, one that might come as a surprise is I think Mamoswine is going to make some big waves at this tournament. Has not made any waves at any official tournament up until this point, but after some recent changes and the metagame really leaning into a lot of melee-focused Pokemon, Mamoswine is a great counter to a lot of those strategies, so I could see the Mamoswine stonks rising up. However, that might be a little bit of known technology at this point, so if we're gonna go out there, crazy surprise pick that might dominate, let's throw another defender. I've been seeing a lot of Greedit be successful, so if you all are fans of the big squirrel, I mean, this might be the tournament.
Oh, that's tough to play against. I don't want to ever play against a Greedent, and I would be so scared to see one on the world stage.
Well, if your enemy team locks that in, you know they're cooking up something. And I think that brings us perfectly into, I think you touched on it a little bit earlier, actually, Zoinks, the different regional metagames, if you want to break that down for us.
Yeah, so the last couple times I got to be a part of this pre-show, we talked a lot about the popular Pokemon that we might see selected at this tournament, but Worlds is a whole new ballgame, right? Where there's so many different regions who have their own favorites and their own insular metas, right? We know that team plays this, so therefore we play that. So instead of breaking down individual Pokemon, I want to talk more about playstyle, because I feel like that's easier to define between Latin America, Japan, APAC, and North America and EU kind of as a collective. All the other regions kind of fit somewhere in this 4-circle Venn diagram I have created.
Okay,
I think with some regions leaning more to another, but to start breaking that down, let's start with LATAM. LATAM is one of the fastest paced regions that we have competing in the Unite Championship Series. Loves picking the speedster based compositions, sometimes even the double speedster, and plays a comp that we like to call Dive in Pokemon Unite. Basically, extremely squishy, but extremely fast and high damage Pokemon. They like to find the weaker Pokemon on the enemy side, take them out, and then win a team fight because you already have the numbers advantage. It's a very high risk, high reward strategy, but Latin America, North and South, love to employ this strategy.
That's an exciting strategy to watch, too. I can imagine it's going to be great to play that in front of the LATAM crowd and just get some great knockouts.
Oh, it's incredible. It's so much fun to watch. But another one that is high speed, high pressure is going to be the Japan metagame. Now, Japan likes to not necessarily pick the speedsters. They go with a lot of all-rounders and heavily focus on the melee part of the game. Very few range Pokemon end up making their way into Japan's metagame, but it's largely in part because Japan loves to win the game early. They like to get ahead in the early moments of the game, and from that point on, that unrelenting pressure that I mentioned when we were talking about Zeta Division earlier. If you can win the early game, you have that advantage all the way to the late game, and Japan loves to employ strategies like that. They are one of the most well-known regions for the central area invade, like I mentioned before. You head into the enemy central area, steal their experience, and if you have that early game lead, you're always going to have that edge up, and Japan leans into that heavily.
Yeah, just trying to build that early advantage, win the game. And as you mentioned, Japan kind of breaking off into its own region. Apart from APAC, how does APAC's metagame compare to what Japan's come up with?
So, I love that our B-roll here starts with APAC in the draft screen, because I think that epitomizes how this region likes to play. APAC loves to counter-draft so much. They are the region that is so willing to play whatever Pokemon, as long as they know that you're good with it, they're gonna pick it and deny you having that option, and they will adapt and develop a strategy on the fly if need be, whatever they can do to deny you your strong, practiced options. That is the mainstay strategy of APAC. it's tough because Asia Pacific is such a wide region in the Pokemon Unite space where we have so many kind of little individual regions coming together to form one bigger collective region at Worlds. But I feel like if there's one defining factor, it's the anything you can do, I can do better mentality that APAC really likes to bring.
Well, you've pointed out for us a division that's occurred now between Japan region and APAC region meta. I notice now as I look ahead, we've kind of coalesced the NA-EU together.
Yeah, well, there are slight differences, mostly in Pokemon selection between NA and U. Like, one favors one Pokemon, the other favors the other. The mainstay strategy that these regions love to employ is the late game. So almost the coin flip effect of what Japan likes to do. North America and Europe are all about maximizing the experience in the early game. There are so many strategies about if you knock out this bundle, be it 9:45, then you get a bonus experience if you knock out this wild Pokemon 2 seconds later, and there's this whole breakdown to make sure that you are as high of a level as possible in the late game. North America and Europe love to team fight, and when you fight as a big group, if you have that level advantage, your moves are going to be stronger, you're more likely to have your Unite moves, your really powerful ultimate moves, up more often, and therefore you're going to have a big advantage in those fights. It's a very traditional take to these 5v5 battler games, and that is where you see North America and Europe really lean into.
Oh, it's so exciting watching, especially these incredible 5v5 plays. It makes me want to go home and play almost more than any other game, and I have to say there's a pretty good reason to, maybe load up some Pokemon Unite during Worlds Week, would you say?
Absolutely. I mean, we're celebrating Worlds inside the game. I love it. We have some really, really cool event going on right now. The WCS 2024 Event Pass. There is a free pass as well as a premium pass, but even alone that free pass, you can earn yourself some pretty cool swag. You can drip out your trainer in the Worlds jersey, as well as if you level up that pass with unique missions, you can also get a specific regional jersey. You can see here the missions where you have the dailies and your challenge, which are some bigger ones, but just logging in, competing will help you level up that pass, as well as spectating the World Championships will help you level that up. And you can click the button in-game to tune in to the Pokemon WCS 2024 and celebrate the event with us. It's so cool, and Rachel, Adam, just trust me. These jerseys that you can earn in-game and that the players are going to be wearing, they go so hard. I can't look at these. They are on the aura off these gentlemen right now. It's just incredible. Take a look at that. You can see we keep the same theme we had of last year where the regional colors are unique onto each jersey. So North America in their blue, Latin America North and South in their greens, and of course Brazil in that pinkish color. It looks so good.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love
we trusted you completely, but I'm so glad you had the graphic on hand for everybody else watching you at home. Those are fire.
I drew those pictures.
You are almost as talented as Skarzig. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
So we're playing the game. We're watching the game. We're watching in our client. We're also going to make sure that we pull this up on Twitch or YouTube, right? Because there's something else
100%.
in chat that you can pick up.
100%. You can get some item enhancers while watching if you want to watch and earn, and then of course a license box where you could get a new Pokemon Unite license, limited supply. But if you are watching the finals on Saturday, reminded everybody, our grand finals on Saturday, you will have a chance to win a license box.
Absolutely. Lots to pick up, lots in game, lots of great things that you can score for your own account. There's also a little bit of a distribution as well. There he is!
Oh, that's true.
There's
that
our buddy.
is true. Don't forget Gengar, the OG ghost type, my personal favorite type, as my name is Zoinks. But if you enter in gift code WCS 2024, you can get a platinum Gengar emblem. Really cool emblem. And you can equip that and play in those ranked games and get that platinum emblem as a part of your loadout. Pretty awesome. I believe you can enter that as soon as August 12th rolls around. So just in a few days, that code will be valid.
Ooh, I can't wait. So many good rewards, so much cool swag for our viewers at home, for our Pokemon Unite enjoyers who are going to be playing, I think, and watching alongside their favorite pro
We're going to
teams.
do both.
Yes.
Now, Zoinks. We've picked up some hot takes from the other casters, and they have been piping. They've been steaming. They've been almost too hot to handle. But I hope I'm not remiss in assuming that your take will be the hottest of the hot takes.
Well, I'm glad my reputation precedes me. Yes, my hot take, and this one, we're rolling the dice here a little bit. It's technically happened, but I think this is the year. At some point during day 1 or day 2 of the World Championships, there will be a composition chosen by a team competing of 5 defenders. We're going to have a single role composition. 5 tanks, run it down. It's going to happen. Is that hot enough?
Yeah, that's pretty hot. And now I'm a little concerned that if I see 5 defenders, they've got money from Zoinks in their pocket. Whatever it takes to make this happen, but I know it'll be a thrilling match, and I'll be so excited for you and your peers to be taking us through it at Worlds. A lot to look forward to. A little bit more to look forward to on this show as well. Adam, we can bring back, I think, all of our casters now.
Oh, that is a really good idea, Rachel. All of the people who have joined us on the stream today to help break down their individual games and really set the stage for Honolulu. Coming back in. Welcome back, everybody. Hi, we've got you encased now in your beautiful little boxes, so I can torture you with questions that we have received from social media. And I guess, Martine, to kick us off, which Pokemon would you enjoy going surfing with the most?
This is a very good question. One I've been thinking about for weeks before going to Hawaii. One thing that I remember from the main series that I used to play back in the day is when I went to surf with a Pokemon, I kept running into Tentacool the whole time. To prevent this, I will surf with a Pelipper, because if there's a Tentacool in my way, I can grab its leg, fly over the Tentacool, and keep surfing. So Pelipper is my choice.
Nice choice.
Anybody else? Any surf preferences? Any surfers in the chat here?
I took this one a bit more literally, actually. I was thinking what it would be like to hurl a Pokeball up, and then out comes a Warlord, and surely it cascading down into the ocean creates some insane waves to surf on. So I was thinking, you're there in Hawaii, you're going to create your own waves, and Warlord, just a good old throw it out and then return, send it back out again. You just create your own cycle of waves non-stop. I think Warlord's got to be the pick there.
Very, very nice. Interesting choice as well. Literally bring in the wave.
Yeah, I
think for me it's got to be Pikachu, right?
Oh yeah,
it's got to be Pikachu. Yeah. You got to get the classic surfing Pikachu, and then maybe I could finally play the surfing Pikachu minigame I never actually got to do.
I thought that was just an urban legend.
Oh, Pokemon Snap! You gotta lure him with the apple. It's the precursor to everything.
All right, if I'm gonna have a Pokemon to surf, Greninja, he's just really chill. I just want to hang out with Greninja.
That would be positive aura points there. Some hang.
I know how Greninja fans get. They'll take any excuse to hang out with the boy. So I'm gonna go surfing, probably with the classic Lapras.
Yeah.
I think.
Same. I choose Lapras as well.
Yeah, we kind of arranged that ahead of time, I think.
Yeah, we wrote all the answers down. You guys, wrong. Actually, the answer was Lapras.
Yep, I'm sorry. We won't accept that.
But you can perhaps win it back with this next question. Also from Simeon. Which Pokemon would be the best lifeguard at the beach? Martine, start us off.
Yeah. So this Pokemon might be a little bit big to be a lifeguard, but I think the obvious answer is Dialga. Because if someone's drowning, you just reverse time and they're no longer drowning. You can save them.
That is a hack. That seems fair.
That's so smart.
Genius. Yeah, I guess that's unstoppable. Groudon too as well. You can just play
the water.
Yeah.
We're rewriting Ruby Sapphire.
I was thinking for the amount of waves and chaos that I was creating, I thought I needed a strong swimmer, so I think Graplocked would be a very good lifeguard. Obviously, it has lots of tentacles, so it can pick up a bunch of people if need be. I think it's got a pretty good Heimlich maneuver going on as well, so I think Graplocked would be a pretty good lifeguard.
Nice.
Not too bad.
I mean, I feel like if I'm drowning and I need rescuing, what I am looking for in my time of crisis is a hero. It's like, I feel like I'm calling out for a hero to come help me out of the waves. And it's gotta be Palafin.
That was
the only hero. The only hero. I'm sorry, Zoinks, you should have jumped in. I'm sorry.
He does kind of look
time
like a
getting
lifeguard.
into costume though. That's the
like
issue.
It's true. You do have to let Palafin run back to the lifeguard tower to get the buoy and then come back in as a hero.
Just hope nobody's looking, right? Like, otherwise, you might not be coming for you.
I know, but it's okay, Zoinks. I know it's just going to be Greninja again.
Yeah, it's gonna be Greninja again. I think the tongue could play a part of saving people, just grabbing them and pulling them in. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Greninja again here, Adam.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm just going to go with Drifloon.
Interesting.
Yeah, just lift me right out of the water, just carry me back to shore. Sounds like a good time.
You hope it carries you back to shore.
Dangerous.
Doesn't take you for a child, takes you elsewhere.
I don't. You must be this tall not to get kidnapped.
Oh man, well I'm still stuck in Kanto. It's a Chansey coming to save me, I hope.
Just hope there's no metronome to explosion, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, we're just hoping for some sing, maybe a bite of egg. I don't know. We've also got a question from the Mohawk Mike, who wants to know, what advice would you give for watching a game you're unfamiliar with? You know, TCG players watching Go, or video game players watching Unite. You know, maybe I guess we're framing this for your game if you're unfamiliar with it, if you're coming from one of the other games.
Yeah, Martine. If somebody new was tuning into Pokemon Go, didn't really know a lot about the game, what should they focus on?
So one thing that I found easier to understand, like VGC, was to dive into the game a little bit myself, start playing it a little bit if like if that's possible. That might give you a better understanding of what a caster is talking about. Especially in Go, a game can go very fast, so it might help to have a little bit of understanding what is exactly on that screen, right? So that would be my advice if you really want to follow along or have a deep understanding, that you might want to start a little bit into the game as well. But usually the casters explain everything so thoroughly and very well that even without a lot of knowledge, you can still follow along the lines.
And then for TCG, I think there is a lot of like sensory overload going on sometimes. So I think sticking to the core concepts that a prize card race, taking your prize cards first, is the most common way to win in the Pokemon TCG. And then right in the middle of the stream, every time there's a game going on, there's a prize count for both players. So, you know, when someone's taken more prize cards, they're closer to winning the game with the primary win condition in the Pokemon TCG, but also focus on the two active Pokemon. The Pokemon on the bench, they could be helping out with abilities and such and drawing cards and whatnot, but the two in the middle of the screen, those are the ones actually duking it out. Those are the ones battling. The rest are just chilling out on the bench. So I would focus on the two active Pokemon primarily, as well as how many prize cards have been taken, which means that anytime you're jumping into a game of the TCG, you can instantly know sort of what stage they're at in the game and who's ahead.
Yeah, and I think by contrast, Joe, like the video game championships, like the meta that we have is often about getting a Pokemon in safely so that you can, you know, seize the advantage, seize the momentum. And oftentimes the only way to really safely get a Pokemon is to sacrifice a Pokemon before. So just that number count can be pretty misleading. Someone could be down 4-2, but have their, you know, checkmate piece coming out for free and not taking any damage, not getting any speed drops or stat drops. And it really is about trying to track the positioning and the momentum of a game. You know, and oftentimes you'll see players opting not to take an easy KO because they don't want to give their opponent free switch-ins to their sweepers in the back.
I think for Unite, the best piece of advice I could give to a new viewer, I mean, pretty much in any of our titles across them, pick your favorite Pokemon, try to pay attention to what that Pokemon is doing, what it kind of wants to achieve. If it's a long-range attacker, how is it setting up to do that damage? But if you're just trying to watch a competitive Pokemon Unite game, make sure to pay attention to those final 2 minutes. It's the best piece of advice I can give. Points are doubled, a major objective joins the map in Rayquaza, and that can really shift the tide of a game and how these teams play around it. So at the 2-minute mark, that is the prime time to pay attention to a competitive game.
Very well said. And if you at home are a new viewer, hopefully you'll be enjoying the stream in Honolulu even more now. I just want to give a final thank you to our wonderful guests here who have helped share so much information and to achieve our goal of setting the stage for our competitors in Hawaii. So thank you all, and we're going to let you go. Thank you again. I can't say it enough, and hope you enjoy Worlds as much as we are going to.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you to all our commentators, casters, and hosts who take us all throughout the action all year long. It's going to be a big one, Worlds next week. And of course, there's another way that you can get real hyped up for what is to come, and that is with a very special Spotify playlist from Pokémon.
Ooh, yeah, they've put together a nice mixture of some hype tracks from previous World Championships, some new ones thrown in as well, so you can search Pokémon on Spotify or check out this special link that we have prepared. You can enter that into your browser. It's going to take you right there to that playlist, and you can just jump in there and start to groove and get in that nice Worlds mindset.
There's some new songs on there for this year's Worlds. There's some old classics in there. It's sure to get you set and ready for competition. And if this show hasn't done it, if that album doesn't do it, well, you want to pay attention to what is coming up at Worlds, because you want to head over to fantasy.pokemon.com and you want to fill out your fantasy teams, your rosters for which Pokemon you think will be in the finals for the video game and for the trading card game. Adam, we got a lot of great suggestions from our commentators.
Yeah, take the knowledge that you have gained from this preview show. If you're in the US and Canada, you can parlay that hopefully into a Jumbo Arcanine plush. And I certainly am rooting for you, yes you, to win it all with your fantasy picks.
Absolutely. And of course, if you're looking to tune into Worlds, we'll have that information for you. But it starts real soon. Adam, when does it start? Where can we watch it?
So, when you want to watch the World Championships, we do have a special hub link, which is really cool. You can go to twitch.tv/team/Pokemon, so that way you can tune into every stream all at once and kind of choose your own adventure from there. But that is going to be starting at August 16th at 9 a.m. Hawaiian time. We have a bunch of different time zones. Make sure you set your calendars. Do not miss the stream. We have a great opening ceremony. All of the games are going to be going simultaneously, which is really important. And because Pokemon Unite, their overall event concludes a little bit early. If you are watching or if you're even there in person, stick around and add your voices to their crowd and bring that additional hype to their sport as well.
Yeah, thanks to the team page and thanks to the great advice from our commentators, you are well equipped to enjoy all the games that are going to be at Pokemon Worlds. And we cannot wait to see you there and hear about how much you enjoyed it. It has been an absolute pleasure working with you, Skarzig, and bringing this World's preview show to life.
It has been an absolute pleasure. I can't have done it without you, Rachel, and I couldn't have done it without our great panelists and our audience at home. I certainly hope that you enjoy the World Championships. That's going to be it from us, and we'll see you on the next season of competition.